We're back.
We're back. Let's go. There's Kyle drinking the beer. God, I love this scene of Kyle right now. You got the bar lights in the back. You got him in a fucking wife beater drinking what are you drinking? What are you drinking?
Light.
Coors Light. You can't get more American than that unless there was a bald eagle with a Big Mac in the background. You can't get more American than that.
While streaming football. And that's what's ironic about it. It's because I'm in downtown Miami. And it's like, this is the only bar that will give you this type of vibe. That's why I love it. I love it here. It's like
Absolutely.
No one really knows about it. It's on the 9th floor of a hotel. And it's like no one really tells people about it because we don't want it to be a popular destination. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because
it does very well.
Yeah, that's great. And you've been traveling quite a bit because, this isn't the first stop. This is, your third?
Yeah.
Third.
So, first things first, before we start, on behalf of everybody from Only Football and myself, we just wanted to welcome you back to the channel. Shot, and everyone else has one. Everyone else has a shot in the chat.
Yep.
And, they missed you a lot. I probably missed you double the amount that they missed you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do 2.
Oh, my God. Kyle's a maniac. I love it.
We have Rick back. We're going to cut
Let's
this and
go. I'm back, baby. Let's go. Nice. Kyle is a monster. Kyle is a monster.
Little pickle juice.
Oh, nice. Cut it with the pickle juice. I love it.
All right. So happy to have you back, brother.
Thanks, man. It's great to be back. I hopped on the stream for the Bengals and the Rams earlier, and again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. You guys make me feel so welcome. Ginger, Tyler, even Steve, Casey, Bill, all you guys welcoming me back. I appreciate it so much, and especially Kyle taking 2 shots for me.
Yeah, I did for you. No, I'm kidding.
Totally for you.
I did. Okay, so the way the trip started was and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but getting out of the military, there's a lot of moving parts that go along with that. And the way it kind of went was people came into my house and they packed up all of my stuff and put it in storage. And it was Friday. So I had to be in Denver by Sunday. So I drove for 18 hours straight.
Oh, my God.
By the time I got to Denver, it was I couldn't really get my feet underneath me. I was having equipment problems at the game.
Yeah.
I was trying to go live on YouTube, but it was coming up as private. So there's been a lot of, excuse me, the shots. It's been a lot of growing pains because I understand now why people it's a much easier controlled environment to stream at home. It's very hard to just take it on the road. And
I bet.
In Jacksonville, my equipment overheated outside of the stadium. And then in Miami, this has been the best place yet, but that's because it's been, there's family here, so I can get settled in and stream. I'm at a bar where I'm friends with the owner. I couldn't just do this in a random city and feel comfortable streaming in a bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's just, it's been a lot of driving. Tomorrow we head back to North Florida, and then I'll be in Nashville in a couple days, and then I was going to continue doing the tour, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up shop in my mom's guest room for a year, 6 months, whatever it is, because I think we could reach more people. I mean, I'm still planning on doing some traveling, but I do want to consistently have a home base. And the beginning part of my trip, there's really no home base, so I'm going to get that home base. I'll still be traveling around, but at least we'll have a home location. So thanks for asking. It's been a little bit of awesome, a little bit of shit show, a little bit of just not knowing, just being ignorant to all of this, Wi-Fi pucks. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it. And we do. We want to bring. I know, my deepest desire is seriously to bring content that isn't existing out there for you guys. Like, I really want
100%.
people to tune in and be like, holy shit, he's doing all this shit. But sometimes the vision's there, but the logistics aren't worked out. But we're working them out right now.
100%.
And I think we're just now kind of rolling. So it's a great time to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's a great time for me to be back too. It sucks because like I missed the first couple weeks, and I remember talking to Kyle, like we had talked about it. I was like nearing the end of this last deployment for me, and I'm like, hey man, let's talk about what we're gonna do, like when I'm gonna come on. And I said early season is probably just a good, vague enough and general enough thing to say to where not everybody's expecting me back first week of the NFL, but somewhere right around there. Which I mean, week 3, a little bit after week 3. I think is great, and it's been fun. I've been doing some traveling as well. I went to Chicago, so I know. When you said I've been driving 18 hours, I know, brother. I know. Huh?
You drove to Chicago?
We drove to Chicago from Washington, man, and it was a hell of a trip.
Did you want to?
Yeah, we didn't want to travel. Plus, we had our dog. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of money, but driving to, and I'm sure you've experienced this. It's nice to see like the nature aspect of it all, and just to like driving through Montana, through Utah, through Colorado, even like it's amazing. So
it is. I wish I could have appreciated it more. I was so focused on like what was next that I wasn't in the present. But I'm glad I've learned this lesson at week 3. And let me ask you this. So I say that because it's so early in the season, and obviously you haven't been able to, like you said earlier, keep up with everything. Yeah. So when you did finally kind of like step back into that world, what was the biggest shocker of the NFL season?
I honestly don't know, man. The biggest shocker kind of going into week 3
this was not a prepared question.
Not at all. Like we just do this shit on the fly. This is terrible podcasting, but I don't know. I think it was the Bengals, a little bit of the Bengals, and just me as a Bears fan, it was like how, and I used this on Big League Chicago when I streamed that show earlier. It's just how dog shit they are, Yeah. It's just, that's the word of the team right now, of the Bears. Dog shit.
Dog shit.
Dog shit. And Tyler's in the chat too, like just giving it to me as a.
Fuck yeah. So if from now on, whenever like we are like talking about a team being bad, I want us to say dog shit at the same time.
It's gonna be dog shit, absolutely.
Like, honestly, the only way to say this, it was dog shit, and then we're like, no, we're like,
absolutely. Oh, 100%,
like
100%.
Show where they go, huh? What?
Huh? What?
Dog shit.
What?
That's ours.
That's ours. Dog shit.
This podcast is dog shit. Like Rick said.
It's as good as the Bears. What? No.
Or the Broncos. We'll find out next week, right?
I do want to get to some of the comments before we start our week 3 recap. We are back, boys and girls. This is awesome to be back. But let's get to some of these comments real quick. Steve, first in the chat. I love it. Tyler, I already showed his comment. Bears getting embarrassed again. Let's go. Fields is garbage. Coaches are garbage. And your new owner is Jordan Love. I got to take that, man. I have to. So it is what it is. Jinja just pouring on the compliments. In shape like a mother. I wish I was, dude. It's weird because like the camera cuts off here and then the belly starts right under there.
Dude, that's what I thought. Look, no shot at Tom Grassi. Shout out Tom Grassi. I can only hope to accomplish what he has. But when he was doing the 30 and 30, I got to see his belly for the first time. I never saw his belly.
You're like, what?
He's super skinny. Like, I mean, he's not fat. He's just
he's got that skinny belly.
The beer belly. That's
the beer belly, 100%. And then we also got to show Bill. Back, had to take out the trash after dinner. Bill, you're always here. I fucking love it. Boo, trash. But hey, dinner. Good job.
Bring the Broncos back. Don't take them out.
Hey, how dare you take the Bears out? Yeah, one more from Jinja. Fucking miss you, Rick. Once again, thank you for your service. You too, Kyle. You guys are heroes. We're no heroes. I'm not going to say that. We're just, we're too good. Kyle's like, I'm going to take the compliment. But I appreciate what you say, man. I really do appreciate it. What did Steve
This
had
is the one
something?
I was laughing at the hardest with Steve's comment. I
Which one
was
was
laughing
that?
so hard. The very last one.
No problem with the on spot banner guys. We all understand the whole writer strike and all. I love it. That's the one I was gonna get. I love it. Steve always great for that one liner joke. I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
All
they're
right.
getting worse. They're getting raunchier. You've been gone for a while. Strap in.
I remember tuning in for one of your live streams and Steve just going in on you, bro. And I loved it. I loved
He
it so
joined
much.
our show today by saying that he smells his own farts. That's how he came in. That's how he came in.
That's how you build an immunity. That's how you build an immunity. So Steve, I salute you. All right.
Real quick, is my music too loud? I
Not for me. I don't think for anybody else.
Then we're good. Okay.
Yeah, I think we should be good. But okay.
But can you
Let's
hear like
start.
what I'm listening to? Because I'm kind of curious.
No.
All right, so this is Drake. I wish you could hear a little bit, but that's all right. Go ahead.
That's all right. All right. Let's start off week 3 recap with Thursday Night Football. Giants at 49ers. It was a blowout, 30-12. Like this is how you know week 3 was going to be just a week of blowouts, because the 30-12 was the final score. And, Bill, I'm sorry. The Giants are rough. I forget who did they beat that we were like
40. Oh, you talking about week 1?
Yeah, who did the Giants beat? Was it the
Jet? No. They played
Was it the Jets?
Bills. They played the Bills. Wait, no. The Bills played the Jets week 1. The Giants played the Cowboys and got smoked 40-0.
No, but so then they must have won. They must have won last week then. Yeah, sorry, Bill.
Yeah. They definitely won last week. I think they were playing a weird Arizona.
Okay, Cardinals week 2. Yep, Cardinals week 2.
I said it first.
This was just an all-out domination by the Niners. You had Christian McCaffrey scoring. You had Deebo Samuel running everywhere. Brock Purdy has looked great so far in year 2. He's won however many games in a row. And the Niners are just a wagon, man. 3-0 right now, and the Giants not looking great. And what's the craziest part about this game is how Daniel Jones only had like 130 yards, but he passed the ball 22 times. He had 22 completions and only had about 135 yards. That to me is insane. And we mentioned it earlier in the Monday Night Football live stream. Like, I don't know what it is with Dable. Like I don't know if paying Daniel Jones was a bad move, because so far it's looking like that, and Dable's play calling has been pretty rough. But also the Niners are that good to where they could probably make any team look really bad.
Right. That's important. That's very important to hold on to. Mm-hmm. And also keep in mind that we talked all offseason about Daniel Jones being paid $40 million and that they bring in Jalen Hyatt. And then we hear this offseason that Jalen Hyatt was clocked at 23 miles an hour run down the sideline. Everybody, I know what it's like to have a guy like that. We drafted KJ Hamler out of Penn State, and he was supposed to be Tyreek Hill is so good that we are turning like certain draft prospects into a Tyreek Hill class. If you're really fast, or we just say Tyreek Hill-esque, you know, but we understand that we're not saying they're going to become Tyreek Hill, right? Let's just be clear about that. Jalen Hyatt has that kind of speed. And the question I always had was like, that's great, but who's throwing him the ball? And then the pushback against that is kind of like, hey, the Giants, for the first time in Daniel Jones' career, he's having the same coordinators, the same head coach going into another year. I expect him to make a big jump. Well, I'm pulling up right now on PFF's offensive line rankings. Philadelphia, number 1, Cleveland, number 2. No surprise. Kansas City at number 3. That's a little surprising. They had a good O-line last year, but they also lost Orlando Brown. So we didn't know how that was going to work, and Jawan Taylor is new. It's working out great. Humphrey, their center, 100%. Is fucking crushing it. Well, let's go to the Giants. Let's see where they're at. So I'm at 10, the Colts, Broncos 11, Steelers. I'm just assuming, when you told me that stat, I never looked this up. I'm just assuming the fact that he can't throw downfield is because of the offensive line. 21 Chicago Bears haven't gotten to the Jets yet. 23 New York Jets. 25
Wow.
Houston Texans,
Wow.
27 Commanders, 29 New York Giants. Look at that. Not a fucking
Wow.
shocker at all. So the worst,
Wow.
almost the worst O-line in the first 3 weeks. Daniel Jones, I'm the first guy to talk shit about Daniel Jones, not because I don't like him, but because I like to reserve me saying that a quarterback is good for like really good quarterbacks, and he hasn't shown me that yet. But I'm not a hater. I will say if he doesn't have time to throw it, how do you expect him to go downfield? You know what I mean? And that's
Exactly.
what you said about the 49ers about like, let's remember they'll expose anybody. That is the aha moment. It's not about like even more than about how bad this O-line is or the Giants struggles or Saquon Barkley not playing in the game. To me, this is about the 49ers, man. You know
Yeah.
how I feel about Brock Purdy and this 49ers team. Like the fact is, week 12 of last year, Brock Purdy came into a game for the first time in his career against the Dolphins, and he has never lost a football game he didn't break his elbow in.
Yeah.
So there's literally no reason to not understand, like, hey, not only is this team really good, but Brock Purdy is getting better. What the fuck does that mean? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
to me, it's like 49ers, Dolphins. Like, that's your Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's what
You
I was
know?
gonna. I was gonna say the exact same thing too. Those are the top teams right now.
Yeah, top. And Bills. Bills are back.
Bills are back. We'll get to the Bills, but I think with the what's that?
No, I say we'll talk about that later. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
No, absolutely. But yeah, Bills are back. I think when the pressure's off, the Bills play a little bit better. Then just to go a little bit more into this game, you talked about the line. I'm actually kind of surprised with that about the line about the Giants, especially with what they were able to do last year on that offense. But I don't know, Bill, I don't know what to say about the Giants because I'm struggling with the Bears. I just hope that what happened with the Bears and Nagy doesn't happen with the Giants and Dable, because you saw that creativity or that overthinking offense from the head coach, who's supposed to be an offensive guy, right? Hopefully that doesn't go away because it sucks. It sucks, especially me knowing how that the rest of that year went with Nagy after being coach of the year too. Like, he won coach of the year that year in 2018. And then it was just overthinking after overthinking. Not that the offense looked like dog shit. We're just going to say it again. But hopefully it doesn't happen to the Giants. But that's kind of what it's looking like now. And again, what like Kyle said, the most important thing is that the 49ers are just amazing. Brock Purdy, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 85 yards rushing and a touchdown. Caught 5 passes for 35 yards. Deebo Samuel, 6 receptions, 129 yards and a touchdown. And then Elijah Mitchell, also 11 carries, 42 yards. They've got players everywhere. It's not even fair. It's not even fair. These guys are going to the Super Bowl for real. For real.
And the last thing I'll say about the 49ers is, to me, what makes them so interesting is, like, last year, there were certain teams that we would watch and we'd be like, oh, they're so explosive. Like, remember when the 49ers played the Seahawks in the divisional round, we were streaming that game, and the Seahawks were winning at halftime, 17-16. The final score of that game, I think, was 20-41. So, like, the 49ers, when you watch the game, they have a way of, like, bringing false hope to the opponent. I know Bill said he had no illusions, but, like, for other teams, right, you go into halftime with a win and you're feeling really good. The 49ers, like, have a way of just, like, beating you so bad, and you, by the end of the game, it's like, how did you lose by so much? And it's not like 1 or 2 plays. It's like, well, the 49ers just dominated every play of the game, and it ended up in a blowout. But it happens in the second half because they wear you down because they're so physical.
Yeah.
That by the time you get in the second half, it's like, well, it was a close game. The 49ers are a second-half team. They bust games open in the second half. So, like,
they do.
To me, that's kind of like that trait that I'm looking at, like, possible Super Bowl teams, like the team that, okay, it's a close game in the second half. Well, who gets worse and who gets better? Nobody gets better than the 49ers in the second half. And that's all I got to say about that game.
For sure. Let's move on to the next game on the slate. Colts at Ravens.
Next.
This was a tough one to get into because the Colts won 22-19. This game went into overtime. Lamar Jackson looked great starting off. He had a touchdown in the first quarter, rushed for over 100 yards, had over 200 yards passing. And then, like, I think they scored one more touchdown, I think, in the third. What was it? Yep, it was another Lamar Jackson rushing touchdown. And I don't know what happened to them after that because it seemed like the Colts were, like, playing like, they were playing football the way, I don't know, like you don't want to lose the game by a lot because they were kicking field goals whenever they could. They scored a touchdown here. But it was like, why can't the offense, one that Lamar Jackson now has weapons in and is making Nelson Aguilar look like a fucking stud, like, why couldn't they beat them, like, convincingly? Like, not only did they go to overtime, but one of the most, I think the most accurate kicker in the NFL in what's his name? God, why can't I never remember names?
Odell Beckham?
No. Yep, Odell Beckham, that guy. Justin Tucker missed a 61-yard field goal at the end, or an OT, I believe. And that was one where the camera angle, you see it, right? You see it go down the middle, and you're like, oh, it's in. It's Justin Tucker. It's 61 yards. It's down the middle. It's in. Missed by a couple yards, and then the Colts go on to win it in overtime with a field goal. It seemed like the Ravens never put the pedal to the metal in their offense and just kind of were like, yeah, we're gonna beat them, right? We're gonna eventually beat them, and then it just didn't happen.
Trap game. It sounds like a trap game. And you know what? This is the exact kind of game in the Cowboys game. We'll get to that. This is the kind of game that makes people that I don't bet on these games because mostly because I don't live somewhere where it's legal. But this is the kind of game where you're like, I'm never betting on professional sports.
Yeah.
Colts at Ravens, and the Ravens won. Well, the night before we went live, I actually got this game right. I said the Colts were going to cover. I didn't know if they were going to win the game, but I knew that anytime you have a game with 10.5 double-digit favorites, right? It's the NFL. There's no double-digit favorites. Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But it just seemed to me that, like, the Ravens were getting a little bit too much credit for accomplishing nothing. And the Colts, with Gardner Minshew, the way I looked at it was that might be an upgrade. Anthony Richardson is good, and I think he should start. So don't confuse this with, like, me saying, oh, Gardner Minshew should be the starter. No, you want to get him to get those Kenny Pickett reps, right? So, like, if you're going to throw the picks, get it out of the way. Let's see what we have here. I like him starting, but he was in concussion protocol. Gardner Minshew got the start. To me, the books reflected some kind of significant loss, and I saw it as if there was no loss, maybe even an increase for the Colts. So the Colts going out there and winning, I mean, it's an upset. It was a trap game. But it's the NFL. And in the words of Vic Fangio during his first tour of being an NFL head coach, everybody is Alabama. Like, the NFL, everybody's Alabama. You should never think that you're safe. And we'll talk about the Arizona game a little bit later, but not shocked about it. This is easily one of those games where you, like, I'm going to be bold and say this, and if the Ravens won 40-3, I would be like having to come on Tuesday and be like, I'm a fucking idiot. Yeah. And I do have those in here, so don't worry. But this wasn't one of them. I went through today and, like, wrote down little notes on all my predictions because I was at my brother's bar till like 3 a.m. when I came back and made my predictions. And I was like, I better go listen to those and see what the fuck I said because I actually did pretty well. So this one, though,
there you go.
You just got to hand it off to Jinja and the Colts, man. They came prepared, and remember, they got a great head coach now. They're not going to just roll over and die. Like, they're not a franchise that's lifeless. That's what I mean. So true. And there are those franchises out there right now. And we thought Arizona was one. They're not either. So, you know, it's a really weird year, man. It's a really weird year.
It is almost weirder than last year when we saw a lot of this, but
Houston
credits.
too. We'll talk about that, but
Yeah, absolutely. Them as well. And I want to give credit to Gardner Minshew for coming in. Like this is a guy who had the starting job in Jacksonville, thought, okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to have the job. And now he's a backup quarterback. Great kind of position to be in because you're a backup quarterback to Richardson, who, kind of a big surprise, really, when it comes to like young QBs. But he did really well. He had 227 yards with a touchdown. Zach Moss also had a really good game, 122 yards rushing, and caught a touchdown. Michael Pittman did really well. Like you said, it was a trap game for sure for the Ravens, but I don't know. I don't know what to say about the Ravens. I had Lamar on my fantasy squad. I mean, his touchdowns definitely helped me out, and I love it. But this seems to be like one of the arguments that we had last year, right? Like, is Lamar Jackson a good quarterback with or without wide receivers, right? Like, it could be a trap game, but can this unravel to be more, right? Like, can it be like, like, is he really the problem, or was this a trap game? So, well, obviously we'll be able to see next week, but I good for the Colts, Ginger, like you said, good win for them.
Yeah, you don't want to overreact one way or another.
Exactly. Exactly. But all right, let's move on to the next game. Titans at Browns.
Wait, one last thing.
Yeah.
Ravens head coach John Harbaugh isn't afraid to call out officials, and he'll have a golden opportunity to do so after his team's narrow overtime loss to the Colts. Baltimore's last overtime drive was stymied when officials failed to call what appeared to be a clear defensive pass interference penalty against Zay Flowers. The rookie wideout was breaking open against Indianapolis' secondary when he was grabbed and spun around during the middle of his route. Quarterback Lamar Jackson was targeted, the former Boston College standout, but whatever. The pass was incomplete and the call wasn't made. So, like, this is a situation, like, he missed a 61-yard field goal. Potentially, this should have been a closer field goal. But, like, it's kind of like last week's 2-point conversion. It's like it shouldn't come down to that. But, on this show, I want to at least bring it up. The refs missed the call. Justin Tucker would have made a closer field goal. The Ravens
100%. 100%. And, you talk about, he had that comment about the officials. When we're talking about the Titans and Browns, we had an obvious missed call by the officials on this one. And this was when Browns wide receiver, Amari Cooper caught a pass near the sidelines. The ref that was standing right in front of him called him out of bounds after the catch was made. He was running down. Like, could he have scored? Maybe, but it looked like the guy was going to tackle him regardless. But the official was standing right in front of him, and he called him out. And everyone was like, "What are you talking about?" But luckily for the Browns, 27-3 win. Deshaun Watson looked like Deshaun Watson of old. 289 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jerome Ford had a touchdown. Amari Cooper, 116 yards receiving with that touchdown. The Browns looked good, and the Tennessee Titans looked bad. They looked bad. I mean, you get to Ryan Tannehill. He looked like, okay, this is the Ryan Tannehill we all know and love from before the Titans. No, from before the Titans.
No. The Titans have the 32nd ranked offensive line in the NFL out of 32 teams. So, like, and
true.
I know.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
What it's like to live there. And how you can't blame, like, Justin Fields last year. He was sacked 50 times. Like, I really wish he would develop into a pocket passer. He seems antsy in the pocket. It's like he was sacked 51 fucking times. Of course he's antsy in the pocket. He has PTSD every time he snaps the ball. He's like, I got 2 seconds or I'm going to get hit. So, yeah, his imaginary mental clock is like, I need to get rid of the ball. And then people are quick to be like, he gets rid of the ball too quick. He doesn't go through his reads. Like, this offensive line thing is so important.
So true.
And I didn't know until I really started digging in. But if you look into the top 5 offensive linemen, it's a bunch of undefeated teams. You know what I mean? That's not a coincidence. That's all I wanted to say. Not to defend Ryan Tannehill. I do believe that he's on the downside of his career. Yeah. But let's keep a little perspective,
And I mean, they did just lose Nate Davis too. The Bears had picked him up. So, important piece, someone who was there a while too. So, that continuity between the line does get, disrupted when a veteran leaves like that. So I could see that. It's just like, man, dude, the Tennessee Titans at 1-2 after losing to the Browns, these guys were like always AFC South. Like, okay, they're gonna win it this year. They're gonna be in the playoffs, and now it's like, even after last year they seemed a little bit rough, and now it's like the brick wall has hit them because Derrick Henry only had 20 yards rushing, and he's getting to that point either in age or in carries. I think it was carries that I heard that a running back starts just that descend, that just like decline in production is hitting, and it just seems like the Titans are going to get that like really soon.
I'm going to push back against that too. And our first episode back is just going to be me wrong.
No, fuck you.
All I'm saying is in week 2, Derrick Henry, he had, and yes, I'm using fantasy football, but he had, I think he had 120 scrimmage. Here it is. He had week 2. He only had 80 yards. I guess he had maybe 120 all-purpose yards. But remember, Derrick Henry is like just in the same situation as Tannehill. 32nd offensive line, which means
absolutely.
when Derrick Henry gets the ball, there's people making contact with him. Like, why do you think DeAndre Swift is breaking out for the Eagles? And he was the offensive player of the week last year? It's because he's behind the best offensive line, and that a lot of people actually take away from Emmitt Smith. Like, oh, he's the all-time, rushing leader, and it's like, yeah, he had the best O-line for 10 years.
Yeah.
And like, I get what they're saying, but to a little bit, like, it's just one game. Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But yes, it is concerning how much they use him and how much they like. Their whole offense seems like it's invested. All their eggs are in one basket, and it's on Derrick Henry. And if you're going to do that, then you at least have to have a middle-of-the-pack offensive line, right? I mean, like...
At minimum, because like you said, like they use him as their number one guy. They lost A.J. Brown. Tannehill, again, older, getting towards that time. And yes, Derrick Henry, most season starts off really slow, and there's a time where he's usually like, okay, it's time to go. I'm ready to bust out for 120, 130 yard games. But again, he's getting to that age. He's getting to that carry time where it's like running backs are starting to slow down. I can see that with Derrick Henry, and being behind the 32nd best line in the league, I feel like it's just going to be even worse from here. But,
don't say that. He's my RB1. I didn't want to say it.
Oh, that's rough, dude. I am so sorry. Hey, you picked up DeAndre Swift, though. That's good.
They got Mike Vrabel, and that like he's kind of like Dan Campbell. But right now, it just seems like they don't have talent. They brought in Hopkins, and the first thing I said was, I thought Hopkins said he wanted to win a Super Bowl. What the fuck is he doing in Tennessee?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Tennessee peaked 2 years ago in the AFC Championship game.
100%. I 100% agree with that.
It's such a hard place to be, though. It's because the expectations are still in that AFC Championship, but the talent is so much lower. So you got to figure it out. It's like, as a fan, do you just go straight rebuild? This is kind of how the Denver Broncos fans feel right now. It's like,
I bet.
Do you blow the whole thing up, or do you keep that false hope in your heart? You know what I mean? I feel like Tennessee's with us right now.
100%. And, let's give the Browns their credit. Deshaun Watson playing like Deshaun Watson of old. They struggled against the Steelers last week, the week prior, right? And it was a good game, yeah. But it almost seemed like, what are the Browns doing too? Like, is Deshaun Watson really not going to be good at football anymore? And he came out and he killed. He absolutely killed.
Prime time is like one of the hardest teams to play, but. Dude, I had a whole episode this offseason about how if Deshaun Watson, because we're judging him off of, 5 games after taking 2 years off football?
Yeah.
Like, that's not it. Remember when Michael Vick came back? When he actually got back into Michael Vick form in Philly? I pulled up what he did in Houston and it was like a year where they had nobody, and he threw for 4,500 yards and had like 30 something touchdown passes. And I'm like,
100%.
don't forget that at one point he was like for a couple of years he was the best or the second, third best quarterback in the NFL. And we were judging off, we have our subconscious biases about Cleveland just never going to be a good team. And then you mix that in with he's only played 4 games. Like, if he were to come back against the best O-line in the NFL, Nick Chubb's injury is horrific, and it's a tragedy. But there's no reason to believe. I mean, the Nick Chubb thing, that kind of takes the Super Bowl down to playoffs to me.
Yeah.
But they re-signed Kareem Hunt, and I think if Deshaun Watson really wants to get back into his old form, then this is his team to carry, not Nick Chubb's now.
Yeah, and Jerome Ford, a guy who was basically down the depth chart, busted out, right? Like, he's doing really well now with the Browns, and someone who's, scoring touchdowns, and really, like, again, it kind of sucks for Kareem Hunt because he re-signed, but it's like, do you want a Kareem Hunt, or I think Jerome Ford, you got to ride the hot hand, right?
Right. You have to. Always.
You have to.
Always.
100%. 100%.
And Sirianni said in his press conference after DeAndre Swift ran for 180 yards, because I know there's a lot of people on fantasy, so on Star 6 Media Short, I like to upload a little fantasy advice. So I clipped Sirianni saying, I'm going to give it to the hot hand. I'll give him 30 touches a game if it. Well, it turned out he was lying because I didn't see Swift get the ball that much, and when he did, he was averaging 8 yards a carry. But
True.
I agree with you. You have to give it to the hot hand.
I think it might. Yeah, I think, and I think, like, to give Sirianni credit, I think he means like in games, not in weeks. You know what I mean? But Nick, it's hard to replace Nick Chubb, and especially again, we want to talk about the hot hand. Deshaun Watson had a hot hand this game, so they had to keep passing the ball. Amari Cooper did really well, so you got to do that. I guess that's what he's talking about, game by game.
Do you think he's back? Before we move on, just like one sentence: is Deshaun Watson back?
Yes, 100%. Deshaun Watson is back. Deshaun Watson is back.
I'm actually the Browns might be like a top 5 AFC team right now.
Their defense is amazing.
Yeah, they're just nasty.
They're nasty.
That 240 guaranteed is.
It's starting to not look bad. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next game. Falcons at Lions. The Falcons tricked us all.
No.
Yes, 100% they did.
Falcons are still good. Detroit's better.
Detroit is better. We'll 100% agree with that. Jared Goff passing for 243 yards, a touchdown. Who was this? Jim and rushing for a touchdown apparently too. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, who's a tight end. They've got some really good players there in Detroit, and I don't think it's weird to say like Detroit is good anymore, right? Like after what they proved last year, I had them winning the division. Coming into this year, this was a game they should have won, but also like the Atlanta Falcons, those first 2 games compared to now, like they just look discombobulated. Yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. Like I know Desmond Ridder is not the guy, even though he had 200 yards passing. Bijan Robinson is a force to reckon with, but I don't think that team is ready yet. I don't even know if Desmond Ridder's the guy. Like we got to give him, like, he's only played a few games and is the starter finally this year. I just don't know, man. It's one of those things where I don't know. I think he is the one holding the Falcons back from their true potential.
Well, with the win today for the Eagles over Tampa.
Yeah.
That makes Atlanta tied for first in their division. So this was their first loss.
That's insane.
Let me say Detroit's a lot better at home. And then the head coach for Atlanta, Arthur Smith, he's a running guy. Tyler Algier had over 1,000 yards as a rookie. I remember last year around week 8, he went into San Francisco's defense on the road, and they ran for like 240 yards on the Niners defense.
And Algier busted out last year too.
Exactly. And then they drafted, on the clock at number 6, nobody was thinking, oh, this is when they're going to take the best running back in the NFL. But if anyone would, it was Arthur Smith. And we
Yes.
knew that Desmond Ridder wasn't the guy, right? But we're
Yeah.
like, whatever. If that's not what they're trying to do, then at least they have an identity, something bad teams
That's true.
lack.
That's true.
So I don't want to take this away from Detroit. You held Atlanta to 6 points in the entire game.
Mhm.
This is a very physical, great running football team. This is the Lions. This game tells me a lot about the Lions defensively. It was at home. The Lions are one of the best teams when it comes to on home versus on the road. So I'm also impressed with Atlanta's defense, holding Detroit to 20 points.
Yeah.
It's just the Lions' defense was more impressive in this game. This was kind of a old school style football game. This was one of my don't touch it's. And
Don't touch it. I love it.
yeah, I just said don't touch it, but take Detroit at home.
Mhm.
But I mean, this is not to me like Atlanta. I mean, you're first place in your division. There's nothing
Yeah.
to be sad about. Like,
That's true.
hey, let's lick our wounds and get ready for next week. You beat the Packers the week before, and that was a tough win. Packers bounced back. We can move on in a little bit and talk about that. But
Yeah.
In no way do I think Atlanta's doomed or anything. But I do think the Lions' defense is what stands out the most in this game.
Yes, and I was going to say that 7 sacks this game from the Lions defense, which is something that they didn't necessarily lack last year, but because of how many points they were scored upon them, was something that I think a lot of the Lions, fandom was like, hey, we need to improve the defense. We had that interview we had that interview with Berger and Burton Berger talking about the defense, right? Like, should they? And I was kind of like, no, just improve the offense, right? But now, 7 sacks against a very good running team, the Atlanta Falcons. Like, yeah, like you said, tip your cap to them. Lions obviously in a very good position right now to win the division too. But like you said, let's move on. Great game for them. But let's move on to Saints at the Packers.
Real quick,
of the most. Go ahead.
I just want to say deuces to Jinja. Say he's going to bed. Ginge, thanks for tuning in today. He was with us for like 3.5 hours straight.
Hell yeah.
Definitely give a shout out to him. And then we'll keep going.
For sure. See you, Ginger. Thank you again for all the kind words during the streams, man. I appreciate you, and I'm Wednesday's episode gonna get a beer to chug for you.
He's gonna roll one out to you. What?
I mean, drink. So, Saints at Packers. One of the most disappointing games I have seen this year, and I haven't seen many, so this is probably like the most disappointing. Saints up 17-0 in the fourth quarter. And look, I know being a Bears fan, most of it is just like hoping the Packers lose every week. But this one I was certain they were going to lose. And then what happens? Derek Carr gets hurt and Jameis Winston comes in for the Saints. And that was it. It was over. Credit to the Packers because they played down 17-0. They played back to a win, man. You got to give them credit. You got to give Jordan Love credit for that. But Jesus, Saints, like I was like tweeting all sorts of terrible things to the Saints. Like Jameis Winston came in. I thought they were going to go 3-0. I had picked them to be the division winners. And then they go and lose a 17-0 game in the fourth quarter. Like that's just, to me, that's rough. But credit to Romeo Doubs, Love. Like, they all had really good games. Jaden Reed, another receiver for the Packers. Like, they came back, they fought, and they ended up winning 18-17.
And I'm trying to figure out, because obviously I was at the Broncos game when this game was going on. I had my brother next to me, Packers fan, streaming the game on his phone. Because somehow that my game was less interesting than the Packers game. I had no idea why.
That is so true.
It's so funny how, like, every stadium I've gone to, there's Packer fans everywhere. I just want to go up to them and be like, I'm on your side, but stop. Like, if your team's not playing, stop. I would never
Fuck
wear my
outta
Broncos
here.
jersey to the Packers game. You know?
Yeah, like what are you guys doing?
It's such a funny thing. But anyway, so there were like Packer fans that happened to be sitting behind us watching on my brother's little phone. I was so pissed. You know, the mix of the fact that our game was so boring that I had Packer fans behind me like huddling over. But the thing is they got mad too and turned their phones off. We drove to my dad's house. It was like 40 minutes north. By the time we got to my house, it said Packers won. And we were like, what the fuck happened?
You're like, how?
Well, I'm trying to figure it out. Apparently, Derek Carr, this is what we have to bring up. Derek Carr was replaced by Jameis Winston after the brutal body slam during the Packers game, which turned out to be a sprained MCL. Jameis Winston, a very capable backup to come into the game, but until I can figure out exactly what play and how long was left in the game when that happened, I don't know how much of this to put on. Like, I'll say Jordan Love and the Packers, yeah, they did their job offensively to win the game, but I don't know if the Packers defense would have stood up the same way if it was Derek Carr on the field when that injury actually happened, but it wasn't their starting quarterback on the field, right? So that, to me, that's a huge factor. It's kind of like this whole thing, right? If you're going to come back from that many points, well, they did it against Jameis Winston. I don't know when it happened. I'm trying to figure it out, but that's just like a huge thing to keep in mind. But for Jordan Love and the Packers, it's definitely a morale boost, right? These are the kind of wins that really make you believe, like your locker room. Like they, you know, if next week they find themselves down 17 points with 1 quarter to go, well, now they've done it. It's not just like a positive thought. It's a realistic possibility that they can come back and win. Those are the kind of things that really change the dynamic of seasons. I thought this was just such a monster victory for the Packers, the locker room, Jordan Love, the whole thing. But I'm hoping we can see Derek Carr back on the field soon because I like seeing him healthy and playing for the Saints. It almost looks like the Saints are like the NFC equivalent of the Raiders. So, like, when I saw Derek Carr wearing the Saints jersey, I was like, hasn't he always been wearing this jersey? You know, it just looks so normal. It wasn't like when Brett Favre went to the Vikings and put purple on. We were like, whoa, you know?
What is that?
Like, yeah, it looks super normal. So hopefully Carr gets better fast, but what a crazy win, right?
It really was. And I remember Derek Carr saying either after week 2 or sometime before week 2, he's like, this is the most fun I've had playing football. It was with the Saints, you know, and he had a rocky, you know. He is what I strive to be. But he seems to be having a much better year with the Saints. He's connecting with Olave, with Rashid Shaheed. Alvin Kamara is going to be coming back. But yeah, this injury was rough. And I don't necessarily blame it on, you know, I know it said like brutal body slam by whoever the Packers guy was. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's football. You know, it sucks that he's hurt. But it's football.
I was just
you know
reading the article. Like,
I exactly.
Even see the play, to be honest.
No, that's what I mean. The guy who wrote it, you know, he said brutal hit or whatever, and it's like I saw it. It wasn't really brutal. It was like near the end of the third quarter too. So,
well, I want to see that. Like, if you're a quarterback and you're running it, we're so used to seeing them just slide. It's like I want to punish them for doing that. No, like seriously, this is fucking
if you're a
football.
defense, absolutely.
If you're running, if Jalen Hurts is running the ball and I'm playing him, I want my defense to pick him up and slam him on the ground. So next time he wants to run, he has to have, because it only takes, football is all instinct. If you can put even half a second of doubt in someone's mind, it changes the whole dynamic of the game. And that's why you hit somebody like that. And we're seeing nowadays where quarterbacks run for 20 yards and the defense lets up because they assume they're going to slide.
Yep.
And then it's like, what did they learn? That
exactly.
They can just go stroll free down the highway with no cars. Like, 100%. I want to see that. You know what I mean? I'm with you on that. It's football. It's
football. And and not only that, right? Like how you said, the fact that the Packers were able to come back from this, and especially being, I hate saying this, but driven by love, you know, for that win. And you gotta give credit to their coach, because he went for it. He went for 2 when they were only, I believe, they were still down by a touchdown, by a score, but he went for 2, got it, And then that set him up for the next touchdown to win it with just one score. So credit to them for doing that. You know what I mean? Like it was good on them, and they brought back, they were able to come back. And like you said, this is something that they can use for the future. We were down 17-0 in the fourth quarter. We used the entire fourth quarter to win this game. Let's do it again. And it sucks to say that it's the Packers, but hey man, whatever you need to get that extra little bit of motivation and get you to win that game, do it. 100% do it. And that's exactly what the Packers did.
And Matt LaFleur needed to, because remember when Aaron Rodgers was in the playoffs and they settled for a field goal, and it was like 4th and 3 on the 30-yard line?
Yep.
So, like, this is kind of like restores some good faith for Lambeau Field.
100%. 100%. But let's move on now to the next game. Texans at Jaguars. A game that I don't know what to make of it. Texans beat the Jaguars 37-17. And Trevor Lawrence had a good game, but Trevor Lawrence overall, I don't know. Maybe it's not Trevor Lawrence. Maybe it's just this Jaguars team that is just severely underperforming to this point early in the season. It's still early. It's week 3, but hey, we got to talk about it because it looks bad right now from Trevor Lawrence. Again, he had a really good game. 279 yards, a touchdown. He did have an interception. Etienne with 88 yards. His leading receiver was Evan Ingram with 67 yards. But, dude, CJ Stroud, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is a rookie. This is a rookie in a Texans team who has a brand new head coach who, coming into this year, had zero expectations to be, honestly, as good as they kind of are right now. So what do you make of this? Like, what do you make of this game? It's crazy to see this.
It's concerning. It's very concerning. My initial thoughts going into the game, which I did on Saturday night, I said the DeMeco Ryans, he's a new head coach. New head coaches tend to have these emotional victories at home. That's not uncommon. With that said, 37 points. Now, we talk about rebuilds not being able to happen overnight. Like, even if you, trying to talk to their burp because I'm 40.
Feel that?
Even when you turn over a squad, I mean, you don't go worst to first. And in this case, it's just one game, but you don't go from 37. The reason it's so disappointing for me personally is because I had Jacksonville as the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yep.
And I had no reason to believe that if Doug Peterson was able to turn from what Urban Meyer did into winning a playoff game and going toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, and by the way, Jacksonville beat themselves in that game to send Kansas City. That's why I kept getting pissed that Kansas City kept moving up the totem pole because of fucking guns going into people's own feet. I'm like, okay, well, Jacksonville's gun. I mean, what's the next step? Well, it's like a 14-2 type season in the weakest division in the NFL. Well, not if you lose to the worst team in your division. And by the way, you almost gave up a 40-point game to the Houston Texans. Like, I'm going to tell you during all these games, I'm going to say it's week 3. Don't overthink it.
Yeah.
From the person that picked Jacksonville to be the number 1 seed, this is the one game that I'm not going to overthink it, but I am going to raise concern where concern is due. This is not good. Jacksonville is the number 28th ranked offensive line, so I'll keep that in the back of my mind. They got to get better up front. They got to get better at protecting. But Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That's what he was prospected to be, and that's what he was in college, and that's who he is. And if he can't become that, I'm not even going to blame him. I'm going to blame the offensive line or the play calling, because you just don't see people succeed as much as he has in life, and then all of a sudden just not be good. Jacksonville's got to figure out how to get ETN going more. They need to figure out how to incorporate a real running threat with their pass game. Calvin Ridley should be one of the better receivers in the NFL, top 5. There's 100%. A lot of things to love. I'm hoping we can just chalk this up to a bad day at the office, but I'm definitely going into next week keeping this game in the back of my mind. Like, this is
Yep.
not something I'm like, oh, a bad day in the office. Let's just move on. This is motherfucker. ESPN literally says Broncos embarrassing loss by 50 right in front of my face in the middle of
I'm seeing that now too.
Oh my God. Anyway,
We'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. Anyway, this is concerning. We're not going to throw the whole thing away, but hopefully, I always say if you're going to get your ass whooped like this by a team like this when you're supposed to be a team like that, at least it happened in week 3.
True, and let's not, we can absolutely point at Trevor Lawrence in the offense. Like you said, Calvin Ridley should be the leading receiver, right? It's Calvin Ridley. Week 1, it was like, oh my God, this guy's back. But the defense for Jacksonville was pretty bad. 0 sacks after a really, really good year last year too. They were pretty good defense last year.
Yeah.
You thought it would improve a lot more, but against like a Texans team that again had 0, again, all the turnover, rookie quarterback, you thought they'd get a sack on this guy. Zero pressure on him.
D for the P.
D for the P. We're going D for the P. But it just seems like the defense has got to be better for Jacksonville too. But again, let's give a lot of credit to Houston and CJ Stroud for being, being 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, scoring 37 on the Jaguars. Again, with not very many aspirations, I guess. And Tank Dell, by the way, let's talk about Tank Dell, by the way, for Houston, who just came out of nowhere with 145 yards and a touchdown. This is a guy that if you play fantasy, you got to pick him up in your waivers. If Kyle's going to give some fantasy advice, I'm going to give some fantasy advice. Pick up Tank Dell and a couple other players. Achan, I believe, from the Dolphins, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But he looked really good. Dameon Pierce even, still kind of building on that really good year he had last year. Only 31 yards rushing, but he had a touchdown and he had 3 receptions for 28 yards. I was talking to him, Kyle, about Tank Dell from Houston. Guy made a statement and seems like he might be CJ Stroud's guy after that win in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I know. He looked really good. I was actually trying to figure out, like, at least in our fantasy league and probably people everywhere else, like, trying to figure out, hey, where is this guy?
Yeah.
Is he available? You know what I mean? But
100%.
Still, it's like, it's 1 week, the problem is you got to kind of take that gamble because if he does it next week, he won't be available anymore,
Yeah, 100%. All right. Let's move on into one of the more disappointing games for Kyle. We're going to do Broncos and Dolphins. It's the order that it's in. I'm not trying to be a dick. It's the order that it's in. The Dolphins scored 70 on the Broncos. And before I let you do your thing, I just dude, I did not expect the Broncos defense to be this bad. I thought they were going to take a step back, but still be dominant. And it seems like they just have no idea what playing defense in the NFL is anymore. Because they're pretty sad. But the Dolphins, this might be a 49ers thing. Where the Dolphins are just so good this year that they make a lot of other teams, almost every other team, look really shitty when they play them. But dude, I just, after the year the Broncos had last year on the defense, I have no words. I'm hoping you can bestow some wisdom on me about the Broncos. He's thinking.
Next. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, look, I've kind of. I have some music back there. Yeah, it's right there.
No, but back here in this area.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm not controlling the music.
Okay. Great.
The guy just asked me if I can turn the music up back here.
That was
Anyway, I don't know what vibe gave off that. Do you think I was DJing here? It just happened. Yeah, what song? I got you, bro. Anyway.
You want to back that ass up? Okay.
I kind of, I'm always under my kind of personal beliefs. I've had some time to chew on this a little bit. And this is the kind of game where you need some time, right? the Dolphins haven't scored this much points since 1963 or
Mm-hmm.
something, 67. It was before Dan Marino was the quarterback. I mean, this is like a historic game. There's only been 3 more games with this many points scored.
Mm.
Can I say I was happy I was there?
No.
I'm happy I was there.
Absolutely
Look,
not.
I know it sounds delusional, but this is one of those games that you will never forget as a Broncos fan.
That's
the
true.
only game I've ever experienced like this was the Seahawks Super Bowl, and I wasn't at that game. So I've never walked out. The thought of me leaving a stadium early, I never in a fucking million years would ever walk out of my team.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
I always want them to know, hey, I'm with you to the end, no matter what happens. However, my brother talked some sense into me when we were down 50. We might as well just beat traffic, So I walked out of that game and it was weird. It reminded me of like older relationships where you just get into a fight where we'll never come back from this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like just like I walked out of the stadium, I took my jersey off. Not because I was ashamed, but it was hot. But it also made me think, am I doing it because I'm hot, or is it because
Yeah, you become you get in your head because you're like, no, I'm hot. I swear to God, I'm hot. To yourself, you're thinking in your own brain. No, I swear to God, I'm hot.
You get it. So,
yeah.
So I'm like going. That's why I said I need some time to chew on it, because when you have that kind of inner dialogue going, you have to take some time to settle into it. Let me just say, Vance Joseph is the worst fucking coach I've ever seen. This is the worst. This is on Sean Payton. Sean Payton hired Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph was our head coach. He did so bad that we fired him. He went to the Cardinals, and he took their defense from one of the top defenses to the worst, and he got rewarded by another fucking defensive coordinator position. Nobody in Denver Broncos world. I'm in all the worlds. I got podcasts at DNVR, bars in downtown Denver. I check them all out. Nobody, I'm telling you, not one single person was like, this is a good hire.
Yeah.
Fucking nobody. We wanted Rex Ryan, to be honest, which tells you how much we don't like Vance Joseph.
Yeah, Vance Joseph.
Because he was a coach since like 2008. You know what I mean? So, no, it was a terrible day. It was a terrible day to be a Broncos fan. It was the kind of day that made you want to take off your jersey and just forget about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose by 50 points. 50 points, dude. This defense is a problem. I'll say this. Russell Wilson was not the problem today. There was 2 touchdowns that were called back. There was 2 positive plays that were going for 25, 30 yards. Cortland Sutton fumbled the ball twice. There was a lot of mistakes that Denver made. But defensively, that's the problem. Denver had no answer to anything that Miami did. And I know that when NFL players come to Miami, being a person that just traveled around the whole world, Miami has some of the best food, the best bars, the best shopping, the best strip clubs, like whatever you're into.
Nice.
When you get to a city, the players tend to go out and want to have fun and party and shop. And I think sometimes it goes too far. And I'm not kidding. Like, I'm literally thinking in my head, maybe these players were fucking hungover. I have no idea, dude. Like,
something
70 points is a ridiculous amount. And like, to me, it's the most allowed by any team in an NFL game since 1966.
Yeah.
It just happened to come up on the screen right here while we're talking about it. But no, it's embarrassing. It's a bad day to be a Broncos fan. We had every reason. And by the way, Sean Payton said Nathaniel Hackett had the worst coaching job in NFL history.
Yep.
And you know what? Nathaniel Hackett never gave up 70 points.
Very true.
For what it's worth,
very true.
The person that should be the most embarrassed is Sean Payton.
Yeah. And I wanna get this comment here by Bill because I think it's hilarious. I just checked Twitter and Tua just threw another touchdown on the Broncos 2 minutes ago. Oh, and Kyle's walking off. And you're right. You're 100% correct. This was not on Russ. He threw for over 300 yards. Like you said, he had, touchdowns called back, positive plays called back. This is all defense, man, and it sucks. But let's give credit to Miami too, man. They have nothing but fast fucking players, and They know how to use them. They know exactly how to use them. It's ridiculous because Achan, I think is what his is how to actually pronounce it. 200 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert had 3. Tyreek Hill had 157 receiving yards and a touchdown. Chosen had a touchdown. Mostert had a touchdown. Like, the offense was done beautifully. And there's just, the defense has to take a lot of this loss. I'm sure the defense is beating themselves up because they're like, wow, how are we such a good unit last year? And it just sucks. But again, you got to give a lot of credit to the Dolphins and Tua and that entire offensive scheme by McDaniels because they're doing really, really well. And like we said earlier, if the Super Bowl were today, the Dolphins would be in it.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. No, it's just breaking up a little bit. The one thing I will say is Justin Simmons was not in the game. So that definitely counts for something. That's one of the best safeties in the league that wasn't there. But they didn't have Jalen Waddle, so that should have been a clean wash, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. Yeah, man, it's just really, what disappoints me the most is last year it was like if Denver scored 17 points, they would be 13-2 by week 15. And the whole thing was like, well, we're going to score more, and then we do, and Russ does look better, and he's skinnier, and he's running, and he's making big throws, and Marvin Mims looks great. But now our defense gives up 70. It almost makes you feel like, what the fuck is it? We can't have nice things? Like, what is the problem? Like, why can't our defense just do what they did last year? It's literally the same fucking group of people.
Yep.
It's like, even if the coach changed, doesn't, like, the players still, like, have that kind of continuity going into another year? That's what I don't get. Is like, I get it. Vance Joseph's a terrible head coach, but you guys are the ones on the field, and you guys were the ones doing it last year, and you guys were crushing it. It's just kind of like, I don't see where. I hate problems that I can't diagnose. And right now, this Denver defense thing, I'm going to blame Vance Joseph because he's a terrible coordinator. But I don't understand why the players played the way they played. They didn't run up. They didn't tackle. They missed tackles. They were just – it was like they didn't want to be there. There's no heart on defense. There's nobody that wants it. And I'm just really hoping, dude, I'm hoping that next week in Chicago, like, I don't really care what happens if Denver loses or not. Like, I fucking don't care anymore. I just want the Denver defense to not make Justin Fields have his first good game of the year. That would really piss me off.
Well, don't worry because the Bears aren't close to 20 points, so don't even worry about that.
It's gonna be like a 9-6 ball game.
I think like Casey or Steven said that like the game's gonna end like 9-6. Oh man, that's funny. Are we gonna stream that game? Are me and you gonna stream that game?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, 100%. We'll have to make a bet too. Let's move on to the next game.
Last thing, I was gonna go to the game, and after this game, I'm not going.
I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not going, dude. I'm not driving to Illinois after this.
I would 100% be in the same boat. I wouldn't do it. That's just they don't deserve my money. They don't deserve it.
Well, it'll be way better if we just stream it.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move into the next game. Kind of a nail biter. Chargers at Vikings. This one was, like I said, a nail biter. The Chargers end up winning 28-24. I think there was like a really stupid play by Chargers head coach. I forget his name. I hadn't seen it because I was watching football, but I was watching the Bears game at the same time or something else, and I had red zone. I didn't see the play either way, but the Chargers get a win, and it's both of these teams came into this game 0-2. After last year they seemed pretty good. I mean, the Chargers are always going to charger, it seems to me, but both of these teams came into this game 0-2. And it seemed like whoever lost is kind of like on the shitty end here for the rest of the season. What did you think about this game with the Minnesota Vikings losing 28-24 to the Chargers and the Chargers finally getting the first win?
Yeah, I mean, the Minnesota Vikings, I thought were going to win this game because they were at home. But at the end of the day, it kind of looked like two teams that were looking in a mirror. It was like, okay, well, which one of these teams is going to, someone has to lose? And it's not because both teams are bad. It's because both teams are supposed to be good.
Yep.
I mean, I wasn't really on that hype train that Minnesota's going to fall off dramatically because they brought in Brian Flores, who's a very fucking good coach. So, like, to me, I'm like, yeah, well, they were the 31 ranked pass defense last year. I'm sure that's going to be better. So maybe Minnesota doesn't have to score 40 points to stay in games. I looked at it from that side. I was more of an optimist, which I am in life, kind of. So, like, I always see the good side of teams. And then once in a while, a team will prove me wrong. I don't know if Minnesota's done that yet. But the Chargers, I really did think if they didn't win this game, they were going to fire Staley on the plane ride home.
Staley, there we go.
Yeah, that didn't happen. I think for the Chargers, it's kind of back to the drawing board. It's like, what's going on? We brought in a better offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. We have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. Yeah, they just lost Mike Williams, but they drafted Quentin Johnson from TCU. It's time for him to step up. Yeah, maybe a little earlier than anticipated, but when it comes to these two teams, like when it comes to Denver, right, when you lose like that, it's like, I don't even want to talk about it. But if I was a fan of the Chargers or the Vikings, it's still kind of a long season. You know what I mean? It's a 14-week season, and it starts next week. And that's how they have to look at it. Minnesota gets the first win at home. The Chargers get their first win on the road, and Minnesota is still trying to find that first win. It's like it was like two teams that played each other. So, like, I don't think we learned anything new about either of the teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's. I hate to say it because I watched a couple episodes of that Netflix quarterbacks show, and you really get to like Kirk Cousins. You get to really love this guy because he's just
Cole's cash, baby.
Yeah, he's such a wholesome dude. His wife dresses him like he's a very nice guy. You don't want to root against him, but it's just he is not good at the end of games. And he's like, he can stat pad all day. He had 367 yards and 3 touchdowns, but when it came down to it, man, like he had that interception. And it was late in the game. And that, like he can't win these games. It's been his Achilles heel, if you will, either his or the Vikings. The fact that they sent him, he is always probably going to be a top half tier quarterback in the NFL, but he's kind of like, it's funny I say this, but he's like Phillip Rivers. He's very good, but he just can never win it. He can never win it all because he's just kind of cursed. He's just kind of cursed that way.
Yeah, you're right.
Kyle was like, what? No, 100%. He's never going to win it.
Kind of like, I feel the same way about Dak Prescott. But the only difference is Dak Prescott's got a defense.
But even Phillip Rivers, 1 year, had the number one offense, had the number one defense. I don't think he made the playoffs.
I don't even know how that's real.
How is that a thing?
How is that a thing?
How is that a thing?
Like, never bring that up again until we understand it better. Because like people say that, and I'm like, well, what did you want them to do better?
We have to watch that entire season of the Chargers and be like,
sounds like an anomaly to me. Like,
where did it all go wrong?
What is that? Like,
that's
it's just insane. Their best day against the Chargers. And that's how my fantasy football league is last year for me. Like the points for were like 3,000. And I was like,
oh my god!
So it's like, that's got to be what happened though for the Chargers that year. But the Vikings, 100%. Plenty of time to figure it out, right? You got the best receiver in the NFL. Kirk Cousins is
for how long?
It's not their year. Can we just say that? Like they're not winning the Super Bowl.
No. They have the same record as the Bears, and the Bears are dog shit.
They'll be a middle of the pack team. But they'll be like a tough in and out. They're the Patriots.
Yeah, I think they end up with 7 wins, maybe 6. I don't see them
at least 8. I got a little higher floor than you.
Okay, I just don't see them with an over 500 record. Like 100% don't see them that.
That's fair. Yeah,
but
they don't have a win yet.
That's they're on the right track. Number 1 wide receiver, you mentioned it, right? Justin Jefferson. 7 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown. He seemed to be pretty upset too, I think, last week or this week, just with what the offense is and isn't doing with him. It's starting to become like a Stephon Diggs type of thing, except Stephon Diggs did it in the playoffs, and the Vikings aren't going to sniff the playoffs this year. So we'll see how long they have Justin Jefferson. Who knows, man? It's going to be one of those things where Justin Jefferson is like, how am I this good, but our team isn't this good? Just like Stephon Diggs, just like when he was on the Vikings. Because look what happens, right? When the minute Justin Jefferson gets traded or picked up in free agency by another team, they're going to be automatic like Super Bowl contenders because of that. So I don't know how much longer Vikings fans are going to be able to be like, yeah, but we have the number one wide receiver in the NFL. I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how much longer the Charger fans are going to ride with Staley. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, at what point do you just...
You got to cut it.
Waste this young quarterback. Like, because remember, if you have a young quarterback that's top 5 in the NFL, you're in a unique Super Bowl window because you can afford to pay other people. Now they just paid Justin Herbert, but they have nothing to show for what they've done through his rookie contract, right?
Yep.
So to me, it's like these are just 2 underachieving teams right now,
Yeah,
but it's got to be fun to be a team of them. I mean, at least they have the dream of it. Like, imagine being a Chargers fan right now with like that team. It's like we can do it. We can turn it around. Like, we just lost by 50. You know what I mean? Like, there's levels. There's levels to this.
Did you get that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
I said it must be nice to have a quarterback that throws for over 250 yards. That's got to be nice per game.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, you're right. There's even a tier underneath Denver. I'll find the Bears there.
Oh, God. All right. Well, the Chargers won that game. Let's move on to domination. Patriots versus at Jets. This was a game that the Patriots won 15-10, and I think extended their streak to 14 games in a row that they've beat the Jets.
Damn.
And yeah, Bill Belichick does not lose to the Jets, man. Like no
Denver,
matter.
Kansas City.
Yeah, 100%. But this is just like Bill Belichick can't lose against the Jets no matter what kind of quarterback or what kind of team he has. Speaking of the Jets, Zach Wilson looked absolutely horrible in this game.
On a side note, when I made my predictions and I quoted myself when I took my notes today, I put, the Jets will win. Zach Wilson won't have to do much to get the win. This Jets defense at home against New England, take the Jets, because I was like, I look back at it though, and New England wins 15-0, and it's like, okay, well, the Jets offense, Zach Wilson didn't have to do that much. You know what I mean? I just didn't expect that he couldn't do even a little much. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't do anything at all. I'm sorry, by the way, they turned up the music over here. The guy that wanted me to DJ the music for him, he made him turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, no worries.
Can you hear it?
No worries. I could hear it. I probably could hear it a little bit more, but not crazy amount. Like it's overbearing or anything.
It's a really good microphone. It's supposed to do noise canceling, but like it's taking every ounce of me to like hear every word because they fucking blasted it.
Oh really? Oh damn, that sucks, dude.
I can hear you all right.
Okay. I just don't know how much longer, because Jets fans are clamoring to get another quarterback. Obviously, the Aaron Rodgers thing didn't work out because he got injured in 4 plays. And obviously, they don't want Zach Wilson because they were like, you know what? Even if he plays 1 or 2 years under Rodgers, maybe he might get better. Instead, he has to play the entire season. And that's if they don't pick up another quarterback. That's if they don't pick up another quarterback for the Jets. So, Zach Wilson is looking like trash. The defense looking decent in this game, but I mean they're 1-2. They won that game against the Bills, barely. They haven't looked like the defense of last year. They took a step back, even though they're still pretty good and have most of the same people. Just signed Quinnen Williams to a deal, and one of my buddies, Andrew, Shout out to Andrew. He said death, taxes, and players playing like absolute shit after they get paid. And
That's what Chicago does.
It just seems to go that way. But the Patriots, not a very inspiring win, but a win nonetheless. Mac Jones, 201 yards, touchdown. Farrell Brown, who seems to be, kind of taking over, I think, for receiving, 71 yards and a touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott had 80 yards, so that's good for them. That was a good pickup. I guess Ezekiel Elliott back on the map, not really. But just kind of like a win, It wasn't really anything to go crazy about, but I don't know. What do you make of this game? Is this just two very bottom-tier teams just playing each other?
No, the Patriots are not a bottom-tier team. They're going to be a tough in and out every week, and some of their wins are going to look ugly like this. And that doesn't mean that the Patriots aren't good. It just means that Bill Belichick wakes up and has a top 12 defense before he makes his coffee, which is probably black. The Jets are just, in my opinion, shout out Jimmy Buffett, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
But no, when I look at this game, I was like, look, the Jets just have to be better. They have to be better on offense. And really what it made me think of is when Aaron Rodgers scores Achilles on that fourth play and walked into the locker room and looked at Garrett Wilson and said, "I'm sorry, kid." I don't know why that choked me up more than any football story normally does.
That was supposed to be such a great connection.
That was such a and it's just you see Zach Wilson taking over and being able to score only 10 points and it made me think back about that moment and how things were supposed to be different and how much that must suck, to be a Jets fan. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, I kind of have something similar going on with Sean Payton's going to change anything, but when you're in uncharted territories, it's weird. Sean Payton's never lost 3 games, his first 3 games. Well, he did.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers isn't supposed to go down on the fourth play, but he did.
But he did.
And, you kind of feel sometimes this is you're watching a movie and it's you ever seen a bad ending and you're just what the fuck did I just spend 2 hours watching?
Such a disappointing ending too.
Exactly. And it's even worse. It's one thing if you're at an hour and a half and you're I'm invested too much of my time. I got to see how shitty the ending is. It's another thing when the movie's great for an hour and 59 minutes and the last minute sucks. 2 completely different experiences. The Jets right now, man, I feel more sorry for them than any team in the NFL because they were sold Super Bowls and 4 plays into the game, Zach Wilson is leading them to averaging around 10 points a game. I mean, this is just really sad. But this is a really good defense that if they can continue to play close games and Zach Wilson can get a little bit better, I do think Zach Wilson's better this year than he was last year. I think he has to be. That's why I thought Jordan Love would be good. You just can't be behind that kind of leader and it doesn't rub off on you. But it wasn't long enough. It was only a short time period. So I do think the sooner that Aaron Rodgers is able to walk, because he said he wouldn't be on the sideline for the Jets until he could walk, because he's got to be able to move himself if a player's running onto the sideline.
Absolutely.
So he was thinking that might be week 4, week 5. I think things will get better when he puts a headset on, to be completely honest. I see Aaron Rodgers as the leader of this team, and it's not even because Robert Saleh is a great leader, but I'm talking about offensive leader. It's not because Aaron Rodgers is some guru. He scored the highest percentage on that SAT that quarterbacks take in the combine. Brett Favre scored a 4. And Aaron Rodgers, he used to be would you score in the thing? Because remember, Brett Favre and Aaron hated each other.
They hated each other.
Aaron Rodgers has always been a student of the game, very smart. And that's why Nathaniel Hackett has this appearance that he's a good offense coordinator. It's because Aaron Rodgers. And everyone knows that. So as soon as Aaron Rodgers can put a headset back on and stand on the sideline, I think that maybe that 10 turns into a 13, and maybe that's still a loss. But maybe some weeks it's not. And if they can get it in the playoffs, then that would kind of be the goal. So it's just really disappointing. But for the Patriots, they're going to continue to do this week in and week out.
100%. And let's not also, let's not forget, they've got Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook there on the Jets, and they are doing nothing with that. It seems like the Jets right now are a team You said earlier, I forget about which team. Zero identity. No identity right now. Are they leaning on Zach Wilson? Did they bring in Dalvin Cook to up the run game? Breece Hall still had a really good year last year. He got injured, but he's back now. So what are we doing? And usually the defense, again, with Robert Saleh, is a defensive guy from San Francisco. Even they're underperforming. So I don't know
But
what kind of...
they have the 23rd ranked offensive line right now, the Jets, which is like I had a whole episode about the Aaron Rodgers experiment, bringing up the offensive line, because Aaron Rodgers has always been behind a top 15 O-line. And I'm like, dude, he's going to have to throw the ball right away. Well, like, now it's Zach Wilson. And, it's like Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, you have all these weapons, but this offensive line is ass, man.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to win in this league with a bottom third quarter of an offensive line. Like,
Yeah.
it's so important, and I spent most of my life not really caring about that. But it's just like, it's so obvious week in and week out. You look at each game and you're like, the Jets, why aren't they running with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook? And then you look at it and you're like, 27th. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, it's the same fucking story. If you go from 32 to 25, all those teams are like 0-3, and the top front are all 3-0. Like, you can't downplay that this Jets offensive line is not good, and now they're missing the quarterback that was supposed to compensate for that.
Yep, very important, very important. But let's move on. Bills at Commanders. Bills dominated the Commanders 37-3, and this is what we said earlier about Josh Allen and the Bills. They're back, man. They are 100% back. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wrote them off there at the beginning of the season when we were doing our division predictions, right? I saw Aaron Rodgers, I saw the Jets, I saw their defense, and I was like, they're gonna win it. Patriots and Dolphins. Dolphins are gonna come in third, but now the Dolphins are, amazing. The Bills, without all that pressure, in my opinion, which is what they had last year, it seems to be working in their favor. A lot of people were thinking, me included, their window's closing, and I just can't see them dominate like they were.
This guy gets it.
Yeah.
He gets it.
So I was like, okay, keep going. But no, the Bills, dominating the Commanders. The Commanders have a top defense too. That defensive front, they put a lot of pressure, and that the Bills line was so good in this game. This is how you can tell the difference between coaches when they game plan. They know, the Bills head coach, I forget his name, but he goes into this game knowing they have a really top defensive line, probably one of the top defenses, top 5, top 6 maybe. We have to game plan around this. We have to figure out how to do this, and they come out scoring 37 points and hold their offense to 3 points. Now, obviously, the offense for the Commanders isn't their strong point. Sam Howell, first year quarterback, really. They had some good, offensive weapons. Brian Robinson for 70 yards, rushing. Sam Howell had 170 yards, but that's not that great. And they still have Curtis Samuel, McLaurin, John Dotson. They have a lot of guys that they can throw to and rush with this offense. But the Bills just absolutely suffocated them. And just to go over a couple of stats, Josh Allen 218 yards and a touchdown, rushing touchdown as well. We had Gabe Davis with a sick touchdown. Stephon Diggs had over 110 yards. Like, this offense is they're doing it. After that Jets loss in week 1, they were like, we're better than this. There's really not much pressure. A lot of people are downplaying our game and our window. Let's just go out there and sling the ball, and that's what Josh Allen's doing. He is slinging the ball, and he's doing well.
Yeah, the song right now is "Take It, Let Me Run," and I'm just thinking about like Josh Allen, just all the doubters, just being like, "Take it." Look, at the end of the day, the Bills are kind of like the exception to what I've been saying all night. 22nd ranked offensive line, but guess what? A star-studded quarterback that's not afraid to put his shoulder down and get the dirty yards on his own.
And a lot of weapons.
Bills team is in perfect shape for a Super Bowl. There's a lot of episodes this offseason, but one of them was about how we are so prone to hype because the media kind of controls the narrative of the NFL, therefore controls how we think about certain teams. The Bills they were supposed to be, they were the Super Bowl darlings last year, remember? And then
Yep.
they get blown out. And now everyone kind of just moved on. And the one thing that you bring up, that's why I freaked out and was like, this guy gets it, is because you said, well, maybe it's better that they're not playing with the Super Bowl darling expectations. Maybe it's good that they got beat at home and embarrassed, and now no one expects them to be good.
Yeah.
However, the Commanders, they have, to me, they're a wild card playoff team. I think they're a better team than the Giants. I thought Sam Howell looked very good against the Broncos. Like, they were down 18 points at halftime, and Sam Howell led that team back. He made ballsy throws. I mean, he was throwing it to Terry McLaurin 50 yards downfield. Like,
Yeah.
there were just things that he was doing that reminded me of Kirk Cousins, a young Kirk Cousins. I don't know if Sam Howell is ever going to be an elite, but I do think his job's safe at this point. Now, going into this game, this was kind of like push comes to shove. This is the real test. And I think this says more about the Bills than the Commanders. I still think the Commanders will find a way to bounce back, but this is a time for us to kind of take a step back and put the Bills back in our top five.
Hey.
The Bills are not fucking around this year, and they're here to prove it. Now, this is just 1 week, and you know how the NFL is. 1 week it's like this, and next week it's 17-14 win over the Jets, and we're like, what happened to the Commanders?
Yeah.
You don't want to overthink it, but one thing we can say, what are our guarantees? I'll put my name on sign off on the Bills are back as a top 5 NFL team, and the Commanders are a wild card team right now, in my opinion. This was a very decisive win for Buffalo. This might be the best win of the week for any single franchise besides the Packers coming back in the fourth quarter. This is I mean, do you imagine that locker room after this game?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, this is big for Buffalo. That's all I got.
Huge for Buffalo for sure. And the Commanders, yes, in a good spot. I think they're going to be a wild card team as well because, you know, their defense is doing well. And like you said, Sam Howell, tough game against the Bills, but you know, like you said, against the Broncos, he was making some really good throws, good plays. I do remember seeing some highlights from that, and it was one of those things where it was like, oh, is Sam Howell the guy now, right? Like, is he the guy? Maybe, but he might just. It's just a tough team against the Bills, so we'll see how that goes from here on out. Let's move on to the next game, Panthers at Seahawks. We had the Seahawks looking like they were in trouble there for a minute, but come out with the win, 37-27 against Andy Dalton and the Panthers. I got to say, dude, Andy Dalton looked really good in this game. He passed for 2 touchdowns, 360 yards. We had Miles Sanders score a touchdown. Adam Thielen back into Adam Thielen on the Vikings form with 11 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown. DJ Chark even had a touchdown. Like, this team with Andy Dalton looked good. And, you know, nothing against Bryce Young, but Andy Dalton's just better at football than him right now. It's nothing bad on him. You know, it's just he's a veteran of the game for over 10 years now. So they looked good with Andy Dalton behind under center there.
I never believed in Bryce Young. As soon as I saw him actually like wearing an NFL uniform, I was like, look, I can ignore the size thing. Like when you're Drew Brees' size or like whatever. Apparently Drew Brees is 5'11". Look, I don't care
Program
what the
height.
number apparently Kevin Durant's 6'11" and he's like 6'7". So like whatever they want to say, they say. The eyeball test to me is what's most important.
Yeah.
As soon as Bryce Young was on the field, I'm like, there's no way this is gonna work. And I understand the kid is extremely talented, but when I picked this game, I said take Seattle +5. They were only favored 5 points. I said they'll win by more than 5. And when I said that, I didn't know, being completely honest, I didn't know Bryce Young was playing. So I actually got kind of lucky because I would have thought it would have been a closer game with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is a very proven, capable player. I do think Andy Dalton gives them their best chance of winning, not Bryce Young. But you can't go number 1 overall and give up DJ Moore and not play this guy, right? So, this is kind of just like a little taste of what we could see, what the Panthers would be like without Bryce Young this year if that never happened.
And I mean, there was
like,
an injury, I think, or a concussion too, so that was the reason he was out.
Yeah, it was concussion protocol.
Yeah, right.
And
yeah,
that's another segment we should talk about later in the week. Is like we're seeing concussion protocol roll into the next week. I think the NFL is trying to avoid back-to-back week concussions.
100%.
Because Anthony Richardson is also not – he didn't play because of the concussion.
Yep.
We're not used to seeing this. So
the Tua effect.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what to say. Like, to me, Carolina's a very boring football team. I don't even like keep up. I don't even like keeping up with them. Like, the most interesting about them was DJ Moore and CMC. One's in Chicago and one's in San Francisco. Like, to me, it's like, what am I going to tune in to watch Andy Dalton? Like, Seattle, though, it seems like they're back on track. To me, that's way more exciting. Is that Seattle, they got embarrassed week 1, and then they were able to win at Detroit week 2. That's a huge win. And then they followed up with a double-digit win at home. I think I said this after week 1. I said Geno Smith. This was bold, but I said Geno Smith played his worst game of the season week 1. He will not have another game as bad as week 1 was, and that's just the way week 1 is for a lot of teams. You know, it's hard to get rhythm and going, but Seattle's fully rolling right now, and Carolina, they're just living for the day, one day at a time. Yeah,
I didn't think Geno Smith and the Seahawks were gonna be as good as they are. You know, they have been early in the season, right? The week 1 loss, obviously, like you said, it's a week 1 thing. It's an overreaction. It just happens. But he had almost 300 yards and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker had 2 touchdowns. DK had over 100 receiving yards. Like, the Seahawks are legit, man, and they're going to be a very good wild card team. I can't see them taking over San Francisco because San Francisco is just an insane NFL team. But Geno Smith and the Seahawks, man, they're good. They're going to be good. They're going to be one of those teams in the wild card round where you're going to want to not play them. You're like, I really hope we don't have to play them. But and even further along in the playoffs, whoever has to play them in the playoffs are going to be like, shit, this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be one of those games where we really have to play our best game because they are very good. The Seahawks are legit, and like you said about the Panthers, man, is what it is with them. You know, it's a rebuilding year. Bryce Young is going to come back in and do his thing. Andy Dalton right now is building his resume for another backup job next year. It is what it is with them.
Yeah, and I don't ever want to be the guy that's got a football podcast that goes on record saying that there's nothing exciting about the Panthers. But, like, I got to say, for, like, even teams like the Commanders, the Giants, like, there's plenty of teams that I know won't win the Super Bowl that I'm very interested in watching. And the Panthers just, for some reason, just kind of fall into this awkward territory. And they were kind of there. Like, I know they had Jake Delhomme back in the day, and then Cam Newton made him exciting. But, like, it just seems to me that this team is just not a very exciting team to watch. And I think, being honest about that, I think a lot of people would agree with us. So 100%. It is what it is. Maybe better days ahead. But, I mean, hey, they scored 27 points. So
they did.
What I mean, the Seahawks are really good because they keep drafting well. Remember, they got Devin Witherspoon and JSN.
Yep.
They got so many. I mean, that Russell Wilson trade is turning into be just such. I mean, it gets better every year. It's aging like a fine wine. So Seattle will be fine. You're right about the San Francisco thing. They'll never beat San Francisco, in my opinion. No. But they'll be in the wild card round, and they'll be 10-7.
100%. Let's move into the next game. We've got the Cowboys at the Cardinals. The Cowboys giving us just more ammo to give them shit. First 2 weeks, they looked amazing. Their defense looked unstoppable. Dak Prescott looked unstoppable as well. And then they go and play the Cardinals and lose 28-16 in a game where they didn't look anything like they did the first 2 weeks. They were playing from behind. They were playing scared almost. Dak Prescott threw an interception that a lot of people were like, oh, yep, there's Dak Prescott. There's the guy we know and love from his rookie year to now. I was watching this game along with the Bears game, which we'll get into, and it was on Red Zone most of the time because the afternoon games there was only 3, so that one was showing a lot, and I was just kind of like, what happened? The first 2 games, the Dallas Cowboys looked like, oh man, they might win the NFC East. They might beat out the Eagles. They might be a Super Bowl team. And then they go to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, like, they have a decent defense, but they take this win from the Cowboys on that defense, and James Conner played his absolute mind off. 98 yards and a touchdown score. Like, James Conner is the truth, man. And then Joshua Dobbs, 189 yards and a touchdown. He looks like he might just be a guy in Arizona until Kyler Murray gets back. But either way, the Cowboys lose and look bad doing it.
Yeah, the Cowboys roll into this game with the number 1 points for, number 1 points against. That's number 1 offense, number 1 defense. So I'm not gonna overreact to this, but I'm just gonna say this is like kind of like the Cowboys giving us free ammunition to attack them when we didn't need any, right? Like, this is the type of game that the whole world wants to just be like, there they are.
Yep.
There
and I am that guy.
Well, I'm gonna be the guy to say not so fast. All right, Arizona at home, winless, desperate for a win, and they are an NFL football team, and Dallas was unprepared to play them in this specific game. Dallas had a loss like this. I don't know if it was Dallas or Minnesota, but somebody blew out. I think Dallas blew out Minnesota, so it's a bad example. But let's use Minnesota, for example. They're winning most of their games, and then they lost like 40-3. When Dallas came into town and they smoked them. Yeah. If I have that backwards, it's the same principle. This happens in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, teams will go on win streaks. So I do think this Dallas team is, like, extremely talented. Man, Micah Parsons, to me, is the best defensive player in the NFL.
Yes.
Aiden Hutchinson's flirting with it. Aaron Donald had something to say about it today. But they have a really good team. They lost Kellen Moore. Mike McCarthy took over play calling. We were all wondering how that was going to go. Dallas scores 40-0 against the Giants. Sorry to bring it up, Bill, but like that means something because nobody wants to have their best game of the season like they do week 1. The closest thing to compare it to is to get into the playoffs week 18 or a playoff game. So to win like that, in the Cowboys on the road, right? To beat the Giants like that at home, like, to me, you don't just move off for that because the Cardinals beat them. Like, yeah, this is embarrassing. The Cowboys had no business, losing this game. This is a game. I was right about the cover, but I was wrong about Dallas not winning. I had no idea Dallas could potentially lose this game. I thought it might be a close game because, like the other game, the Colts-Ravens game, this was the other game where Dallas was 12.5-point favorites. It's the NFL. There's no such thing. So,
we'll get to 12.5-point favorites here soon.
Yeah, that's a shit ton of points. So I do think Dallas bounces back with a big win next week, and then all of a sudden they're 4-1 and we've all moved on, or 3-1 and we all move on. But no, it doesn't feel good. If you're a Cowboys fan, you can't wait for the next football game, right?
Yeah, and like you said, it is an overreaction, but I'm going to be that guy just because I love talking shit about the Cowboys because it's so much fun. Every year it's Super Bowl, and then you do something like this, and Dak throws an interception, and it's like, you son of a bitch. It's funny.
Their fans talk so much shit, you know what I mean?
What's that?
Their fans talk so much shit.
Oh, they do, dude. They're like Yankees fans of football.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they have to, but
it's gotten to the point where you're like, obviously, you won't win the Super Bowl. It's been,
they're gonna do really well. And the Cardinals, good win. It might be one of the few wins that they get, but they could definitely go into Week 4 being like, hey, we beat the Cowboys, the number one offense, number one defense. So, and Dobbs looks like he's playing for another backup quarterback role too, and he's doing pretty well so far. He's making moves, he's making throws. So good for him. Let's move.
Wait, who's Dobbs? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, let's be honest. Until last year with the Titans, I think, and we were like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, he looked like a future Pro Bowl selectee after that Cardinals game. Like,
oh, God. Very Ravens backup quarterback-like. All right. Let's move on to another 12.5-point favorites. Bears at the Chiefs, which will famously be known as the Taylor Swift game, I think.
Does that help? It's at least like have it be known for the Taylor Swift game instead of the Bears blowout game? Is that better?
Yes, but also it's kind of like, cool, Taylor Swift was there just to cheer on Travis Kelce, just destroying the Bears defense. So
it's also like, who cares?
Well, yeah, and they kept.
He's a huge pop star, and Travis Kelce's a big name, but it's like to have a whole game defined by this is just kind of dumb. I mean, if you love football, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, that's
100%.
Just like a side thing going on. That's not the main thing. Like, don't make it the main thing.
100%. But they kept like cutting to her in the suite. And I was like, oh my
and
God.
Jessica Simpson, remember that?
Yes, just like that. Yeah. Just like that. But the Bears lose 41-10. Never had a shot. Came out looking like dog shit. And, I had a huge rant on this on Big League Chicago. So, if you want to go watch that on the Star 6 Media YouTube. It was bad, dude. It was one of the worst performances ever. And look, I didn't expect for the Bears to come out and win this game. I thought, hey, maybe there might be a chance. Maybe there might be a chance they surprise us. After the horrible week they had, Alan Williams resigning under weird circumstances, Justin Fields saying stuff about the coaching staff that got taken out of context, Eberflus taking over defense, $100,000 worth of stolen equipment taken from Soldier Field. And you're like, how could this get any worse? There's no way, and the coaches are preaching like we're going to be better. We're going to come into this game. After that, you expect for a team to go into a game and be like, let's try to give our fans something, right? Let's try to show some sort of inspired football play. Instead, what do they give us? They give us that Chiefs game. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen. And again, I didn't expect them to win. It would have been cool if they did, but wow, the game planning. This is when I talked about game planning coaches, the Bills head coach versus head coaches who just don't know what the fuck they're doing. Eberflus, worst coach of the league. Easily worst coach of the league right now. Defensive-minded guy. Defense gives up 41 points. Has not looked anywhere near a NFL type of defense. Worst coach of the league, 100%. Justin Fields looks like he's playing uninspired football. Nobody can tackle on the defense. Getsy can't call any good offense. Like, we're just getting manhandled out there. And I said this on Big League Chicago. The Bears look like that Pee-wee football team who plays the mascots every year. Getting absolutely manhandled every single game. And I don't know what else to expect. I don't know what the coaches could do. I don't know what this team can do. It just is bad. I thought it was bad the last year of the Nagy coaching era. I thought that was bad. I was like, man, it can't get any worse. I thought it was bad losing 10 games in a row last year. But we got the first pick out of it. I kind of knew what was going on, and I was like, whatever. The offense, at least, Justin Fields in the offense looks competent. It's scoring 30-plus points every game for like 5 weeks in a row or something. I was like, we can have something, right? Nothing. You go into week 1 against Green Bay looking like just a pile of dog shit. You go into Tampa and you make Baker Mayfield look like Tom Brady. And then you go into Kansas City and Mahomes is going to be Mahomes. He's 2-time Super Bowl winner, MVP. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. But you don't even put up a fight against these guys until garbage time. I don't know how much longer I can go with football like this, dude. That's 13 losses in a row. At one point, I know you do, and it sucks because like we're both on this. Who would have thought 2 guys starting a football podcast and they have the 2 worst teams in the league? I just don't know where they have to start on doing anything.
And that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier about, like, at least when you have a problem and you know how to diagnose it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, at least we know how to make it better. Now, going into this offseason, all the acquisitions with DJ Moore and bringing in the corner or the safety or middle linebacker from Philly.
Defenses, the defense was improved.
Linebacker, I mean, you guys were like adding pieces, and it felt to me, it reminded me of the 2020 Denver Broncos when they drafted Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, and Drew Lock finished 4-1, and it was like, oh, we're loading up,
Yeah.
and then it never happened, and it was like, man, it's so weird to me actually, because I look at this game and I'm actually invested more than you would know because Justin Fields is my fantasy quarterback. So like
Yeah, Drew. I'm sorry.
So like going into week 3, I'm like hearing Justin Fields like clarify his comments, and he's like, "Look, I would never, even if my wide receiver dropped the game-winning touchdown, I'll never say like that's him." And Justin Fields is kind of in the middle of this media week trying to like train the media to know, hey, don't pull my shit out of context ever again. And by the way, while I'm at it, he admits that I'm going to get out of my own head and I'm going to start playing my style of football, which is more instinctual. And that also let me know that Justin Fields has been listening to all the people during the offseason say he needs to develop as a pocket quarterback. He needs to throw. Oh, he's just a running back. That stuff was getting to him where maybe last year when he would run the ball, he was like in his head, like inner dialogue, no, I got to prove that I'm a pocket passer and throw the ball. So to me, when Justin Fields said that, I'm like, oh, we're going to finally get back to instinctive Justin Fields. Because at the end of the day, as a Bear fan, do you even care if he runs for 300 yards and throws for 50 if you get the win or not, right?
Yeah, at this point, it doesn't even matter anymore. Because,
Just win.
last year, you know, I'll admit, like, I was one of the guys that I was like, man, I wish he would pass more. But, dude, it was like, he's ridiculous. He's running 60-yard touchdowns. The offense is looking good. And if he has to, he'll pass it on the rollout. You know, now it's like, okay, he's staying in the pocket way too long. He's trying to be a pocket quarterback, and he's not. He's a Lamar Jackson. He's a Michael Vick. Let him be that. And it's like, again, going back to, like, where do we start? I feel like, and I'll even throw Bears fans under the bus, I feel like no matter what we say, whenever that happens, we still talk shit. Hey, Justin Fields needs to pass more. He tries passing more. Why the fuck isn't he running? You know what I mean? It's like you can't have both. But also, like, where does this begin? Where can we start? Do we fire Eberflus? I don't know if that's really the problem. Maybe for the defense. Do we draft a quarterback next draft? I really want Justin Fields to succeed. I really want him to succeed.
If you draft the quarterback next season, I don't care if it's Caleb Williams. He's going to run into the same problem because you guys have systematic issues right now that are like not about the player. There's a 100%. Reason that Kyle Shanahan can plug and play Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo. It doesn't matter. We're going to win because you have that. John Lynch is a GM. They just extended John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan. You can see what functional organizations look like.
Yes.
Like the Bears have, like, to me, this isn't even about Justin Fields. Like, it's almost one of these games that makes you go, whatever our issue is, it's like, it's in our DNA. And we got to figure out, like, how to, because right now it seems like you're getting personnel, you're getting players. Have you ever pulled weeds and you just pulled the leaves instead of the root?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like they just keep coming back. And it's like, how does Chicago get to the root of what their problems are right now? And to me, there wasn't a game this week besides the Denver game that I was more wrong about. I was wrong about the Bears upsetting. I didn't even say the Bears would cover. I said the Bears were going to upset the Chiefs on the road because I really did believe Justin Fields was going to run for 200 yards and go back to his older style of football.
Yep.
I can't imagine what you thought, but I don't know where to go from here because if Justin Fields was going to go to his old style of football and this is the outcome, then, like, what do you say next? It reminds me of when Denver would, week 2, they would go in the press conference and be like, we will be better. And then they would get blown out week 3.
Yeah.
And eventually you have the players come in the press conference like, I'm not going to say that because, I've said that last week. I'm just going to let my play do the talking. And then they go out there and they suck again. And it's like there's nothing to say. There's literally nothing to say.
Exactly. I just, like you said, it's a systematic thing. It's we have to get to the root of this because, like you said, it doesn't matter. It's just so tough to, like, even think about it. Like, Fields was inherited by Eberflus. Eberflus was inherited by Poles. Poles was inherited by Kevin Warren, our president of football operations. All these guys didn't want each other. They were just like thrust into the job. They're like, this is who your boss is. This is who your boss is. Blah 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 blah. And so so on and so forth. Just like John Fox was with Ryan Pace when they inherited Trubisky, or when Nagy inherited Ryan Pace, and when they inherited Justin Field, and go so on and so forth. I talked about this again. It was just like it's insane. Just how crazy this is, and I don't want to make this about the Bears because the Chiefs played their asses off. I mean, let's look at some of the stats. 272 yards from Mahomes. I think he stopped after 3 quarters. Blaine Gabbert came in, 3 touchdown passes. Isaiah Pacheco and Edwards-Helaire had each a rushing touchdown. Travis Kelce, 69 yards and a touchdown. Mahomes made sure to get him the ball for a touchdown because Taylor Swift was watching. So the Chiefs are the Chiefs now, man. It's that week 1 loss against, who was it, the Lions, I believe, that they played in week 1 that they lost, and we're kind of like, what's going on? This Chiefs offense is looking a little weird. It's not looking like they usually do. This Bears game was exactly what they needed to make sure everyone knew, again, season after season, we're still the Chiefs. We're still dominant. Travis Kelce is still a top wide receiver. And Mahomes
and it shows
still
too the defense of the Lions getting that week 1 win. It's like, well, now we know, okay, Detroit's defense is really good, and plus they didn't have Travis Kelce. It's like, seems like the Chiefs are really rolling now.
They're very much rolling, especially scoring 41 points like that and bringing in Blaine Gabbert to mop it up. But that's what's up with the Bears. The Chiefs are rolling, and they're going to be rolling. But let's move on to did you have anything else?
No, just the Loser Bowl next Sunday. Can't wait.
Loser Bowl next Sunday. Make sure to tune in to watch me and Kyle just be miserable. So that should be fun for all of you people who love misery.
Do you know this Diggs BTW7?
Diggs, by the way, 7. What's up, G? What's going on, man? I think I remember him from last season.
I remember the name too. Happy to have you here, brother.
Yeah, happy to have you back. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football. Steelers at Raiders. This was a rough one for Jimmy G and the Raiders. Get absolutely walloped by the Steelers. And look, the score is a lot closer than what the game actually was like because Jimmy G and the Raiders just getting pounced on by that Steeler defense. That Steeler defense is so good, man. And one of the things that I hate about myself is that I was like, Steelers are going to be 4th in the division. And they're looking like they're 2-1. They have a pretty good defense. And sure, Kenny Pickett and George Pickens and that offense isn't really rolling yet. But they've got some players on there, man. Deontay Johnson still isn't there, but they've got some players that offense could really build off of. But their defense is really what's keeping them in a lot of these games where they're not getting killed. And that's exactly what they showed against the Raiders. Because Jimmy G, he's passed for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, but had 3 interceptions, got sacked a ton, and is now in concussion protocol. So that's their defense is rocking right now.
Yeah, I think this game kind of felt like 2 teams that were playing each other in a very similar place in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
It was very intriguing. I chalked this up to give me the best coach on primetime. That's the Steelers, but.
Mm-hmm.
No, the Steelers had a really good offseason. They were embarrassed week 1 by the 49ers, but as you said earlier, the 49ers embarrass everybody that they play right now.
Yeah.
So, for the Raiders, I think winning week 1 at Denver was very promising. They were embarrassed by Buffalo, so it was kind of back to the drawing board when it came up to this game.
Yeah. And
the Steelers kind of just continued rolling, and it's really hard to win in this league week in and week out. And the Raiders find themselves at 1-2, but they're not in last place in their division. And the Steelers, I think, would be tied for first right now with Cleveland.
Yeah.
So, not bad. Not bad for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin. The way I see the Steelers team moving forward is I see them getting better, and I see the Raiders staying where they are. I don't see them being like a easy
Yeah.
win week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
But I do see the Steelers like just getting a little bit better each week. Like you said, that defense is really good, and if Kenny Pickett continued to develop as a really, he's a young quarterback, so he's a rookie last year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're still seeing a lot of growing pains and stuff, but they're getting wins as they grow,
Mhm.
and that's kind of, to me, what is really promising about the Steelers. And their running back Warren,
Jalen
Warren, their RB2.
Mhm.
I mean, they have the talent, Firemouth, the receivers. They just gotta continue to do what they're doing. They're getting good game plans together. They're winning.
Yep.
I think they'll get better as the year goes on. You picked the wrong year to go Steelers.
I did.
I don't think they win the division, but the Steelers are a playoff team, and they're a double-digit win team in my opinion.
Really, double digit. I could see 10 wins. I still think, man, the AFC North is a hell of a division, dude. It is a hell of a division this year, and
Best
especially
in
with
football. Best in football.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. It's the Browns are looking a lot better than a lot of people expected too. Deshaun Watson starting to really get into a groove. Kenny Pickett again, second-year quarterback, rookie last year, but that defense, like I said, is helping them out. The Bengals just got their first win tonight, and then the Ravens look like there needs to be some improvement. But I agree. I think the Raiders, because they do have a pretty good defense as well, they can be one of those teams where you go in and you're not really sure how it's going to go. It's not like I don't know. I guess like a Panthers type of team where you go in and you're like, all right, we have a really good chance of winning. Let's just not fuck up. But with the Raiders, it's kind of like, okay, let's see how it goes, because they have Josh Jacobs, they still have Devontae Adams, Jimmy G's hurt, but they've got contingency plans for this, right? So they've still got really good players, and it's never going to be an easy win with them.
Jimmy Garoppolo's connection with Devontae Adams a lot better than I think a lot of people anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he seems like the same old Devontae Adams, so that's the last 100%. Thing I wanted to add on that.
For sure. We'll keep an eye on those two teams. Next up, obviously, we just saw the stream. I think you had Eagles and Bucks, or Rams and Bengals, but let's talk about Eagles and Bucks real quickly. Eagles come out with the win. I mean, kind of obviously, right? I mean, the Bucks, after destroying the Bears last week, they had some momentum coming into this game. Only managed to score 11 points. The Eagles, it seemed like they struggled a bit at first. Like if this was the Eagles of last year playing the Bucks, they probably would have steamrolled them like 37-10 or 37-7, something like that, right? But the Eagles struggled a little bit at first, but I think it kind of was that momentum from Tampa. That defense from Tampa was kind of like putting a lot of pressure on them. And it's just an NFL game. You can't keep that up for 4 quarters. Eventually, Jalen Hurts and this dynamic offense for the Eagles is going to score a bunch of points on you. And that's exactly what they did. They ended up winning, and now they're 3-0. Tampa Bay Bucks are 2-1. Jalen Hurts, 277 yards, 1 touchdown. Did have 2 interceptions, which is kind of a little bit concerning. But that kind of comes with how dynamic he is. Baker Mayfield, 146 yards, a touchdown and an interception. This is what happens to Baker Mayfield when he plays a good defense. He doesn't look like he did last week against the Bears. He doesn't look like Tom Brady. He looks like Baker Mayfield, a guy who's few years removed from being a starter with the Browns and has had a couple backup gigs and has had a couple games. That's kind of who he is right now.
Yeah, it's a very humbling game for Baker Mayfield. Broncos allowed 70 points to the Dolphins on Sunday. Most allowed any team. What is it? They're obsessed with this. They're obsessed with it. Why am I obsessed with it? Anyway, no, Baker didn't have like a come to earth moment. Like it definitely felt like, all right, Baker might be on this kind of fuck you tour. And then, quick matchup with the Eagles. I mean, remember, the Eagles were on the road too, so the Bucs had the momentum, they had the home field, but it's just the thing about the Eagles, the press conferences all week have been like, why isn't the offense rolling? Why isn't the offense? And I just want to be the one person to be like, okay, we brought it up like 5 times how hard it is to win in the NFL.
Yeah.
This is an undefeated football team.
Yep.
Like, just stop. Like, this is a great football team. Seriously, like,
Yeah.
I would do anything to wake up and like the Eagles were my team. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
would be nice.
it's just a little kind of like, no, we should be winning by 40. It's just like, no, you shouldn't. It's the NFL. It's hard
Yeah.
to win.
Yeah.
And your defense is playing very good. DeAndre Swift looks like if they wanted to feed him 99% of the snaps, he could be the leading rusher in the NFL behind this offensive line. I think Jalen Hurts is the second best quarterback in the NFL behind Mahomes. Like, there's nothing not to like. This offensive line is still the best in the league next to Cleveland. Like, if you're like just an Eagles fan, like, there's nothing that you need to work on. So like, don't complain. You know what I mean? Like, you're winning your football games. And the Eagles are going to play the 49ers in the NFC Championship. We're just waiting. You know, just like last year, we kind of knew at the end of the season, in my opinion, you know, maybe the Cowboys, but there's not too much of a mystery of who's the best in the NFC. And it runs through the Eagles because they're the NFC champions. They're the ones doing it. The 49ers, I will put them at number 2 because that's just the way it has to go until they the 49ers or the Bucs, just they're not cut out to play a game like this yet. I mean, you could be happy about what they're, but they're never going to beat this Eagles team. They weren't.
No, it was a tough. It was gonna be a tough game for them regardless, like you said. It's a humbling game for Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. It was kind of expected, really. And I feel like people looked at this game and were like, really, the Bucs against the Eagles on Monday Night Football? But it's also a doubleheader. But DeAndre Swift, like you said, man, 130 yards. I remember I had drafted him in our fantasy league because I had a feeling he was going to bust out. And then people were talking about Gainwell, and I'm like, okay, but DeAndre Swift's a more proven back in the league, right? Like, the stuff he did in Detroit was still pretty impressive. Traded him for DJ Moore. DJ Moore, not bad so far, you know, for 3 weeks. Not terrible, getting me, you know, upper teens, low 20s. But, man, I would really like to have DeAndre Swift back. Like
I picked him up.
Yeah, I know you did, because fucking Andrew dropped him. I'm so mad at that. Like, you traded for him, then you dropped him. Whatever.
I know. Once I saw Kenneth Gainwell was out, I was like, yeah, I'll take him.
And then A.J. Brown, you know, again, 131 yards, 9 receptions, still amazing. This Bucs team moving forward, 2-1. You know, they started off pretty hot. A lot of people were surprised with their start. They got, you know, they still have some good weapons. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rashad White is doing really well. Baker Mayfield is meh. You know, he is what he is. What do they have? I don't think they have double-digit wins. Do they have an above 500 record in your eyes?
The Bucs, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Absolutely.
Actually, the way I see the order shaken out is like the Saints and the Falcons are going to battle, and the Panthers and Bucs will be like 3 and 4.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, let's move on to the last game. The one you just saw with Kyle and myself. I went in there for a little bit. Rams at Bengals. Not really something we expected. It was a very kind of a low-scoring game, 19-16. The Bengals do come out with their first one of the season. The Rams go to 1-2. Joe Burrow, not a great day. He had an interception, no touchdowns, about 260 yards. Matthew Stafford, 270 yards with 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The Bengals really just kind of like, you know, the only touchdown they scored was a Joe Mixon rushing touchdown. And the Rams had a touchdown in garbage time, really towards the end of the end of the game with Tutu Atwell getting that pass from Stafford. We talked a little bit during the stream about the Bengals starting off a little slow. You know, we had Burrow get hurt, not really play the preseason, but get hurt in, you know, last week, I believe. He wasn't himself, obviously, but I don't see any. I don't really think this is any time to worry for Bengals fans, at all. Like, they're like Joe Burrow is going to be the Joe Burrow he's been for the last 2 years, and they're still going to be very, very competitive, even in an AFC North that's a very tough division.
Yeah, this was the Super Bowl rematch from 2 years ago. This is the first time that they played since then. So for the Bengals,
How underwhelming.
This was like a revenge game for them, and for a while, it was looking like, oh my God, we're going to end up winning. I mean, it was 6-3, and the Bengals had to kick that last field goal to go into halftime high. It was the Rams with the lead. So the Bengals, I mean, I didn't understand a lot of the play calling going on from Zach Taylor. They threw the ball 31 times in the first half, and they only ran the ball 7 times. Like, it's 3-6.
Jesus.
Like, I understand if it's 17-0, and you're like trying to, it's like, why are we not only are you neglecting the run game, but you have a tier 1 running back in Joe Mixon fully healthy. Like, why are you not running the football? I don't get it, right? So, some of the stuff that they were doing, like offensive line right now is ranked at 17. Remember, they added Orlando Brown. We talked about the Chiefs losing him at left tackle earlier today, but I think this Bengals team still has some jiving to do, and I think one of the storylines that's not being talked about a lot, and this was kind of like Josh Allen last year with his injuries, was people are like, Josh Allen's not playing really well, but no one really knows how much pain he was playing through, because the way the fans see it is like, if you're playing in the game, you're good to go, and if you're not, you're hurt. But the reality is that hurt players play in the NFL, and some of the throws that Joe Burrow is making, you could clearly tell his right leg, that calf strain, he couldn't plant his leg, and he was underthrowing balls. And I tell you, Joe Burrow's not healthy, but the Bengals are able to win against a Rams team that's kind of on a hey, we're not the Rams we were last year, we're the Rams we were the year before kind of a game. This wasn't. I'm actually watching right now inside the Bengals locker room. They were turning up after this game. So the Bengals got a really emotional victory. I mean, it's their first win of the season. They're at home. This was against the team that beat them in the Super Bowl. I can kind of see this being the turning point for the Bengals. No surprise it happened at week 3. This is kind of the MO of the Bengals. So.
Yeah. Must be nice to have a win this year. I would really like to know what that's like. All right. Well, that was the week 3 recap. And, it's great to be back, guys. I just want to say, I've been reading the comments from Bill, from Steve, from KC, and even Ginger when he was still here. Diggs and Ben Shelton. Thank you guys for being here. And yes, Ben Shelton, bro, is at the bar right now. We kind of wanted to get through this. It's been a little bit over 2 hours now, so we didn't share too much of the comments, but I'm kind of rolling back into this, so you got to give me like a couple weeks. I feel like Joe Burrow and the Bengals. You got to give me a couple weeks to really get into rhythm here, and then start. But we're gonna start. We're gonna get back to it. I'm back. Me and Kyle, partners in tax evasion crime. We are back to bring you only football. And I wanted to talk a little bit about just kind of who Kyle and I have been, since we've started only football. Kyle has mentioned it before, and I mentioned it now. Both Navy veterans now. We're both Navy veterans now. We did almost 6 years in the Navy, and just kind of wanted to let you guys know, because we were very, I don't want to say secretive about our jobs, but we didn't really talk about what we did, and that was mostly because there are some rules about the Navy and social media and things like that, so we don't want to put ourselves out there to break any rules in the military. So we wanted to make sure that everything we were doing was outside of that world, which was our work world. We talk about football, we say some crazy things that maybe we don't necessarily want the Navy to be affiliated with, so that's why we kind of kept it to ourselves. But now you guys know, we're Navy veterans, and just got off my last deployment, and Kyle, me and Kyle are now separated from the Navy, and I think we're loving it. I think we're fine being separated.
It's a great life. It's a great life. We're back.
We're back, and
I think
go ahead.
At least from my point of view, which really important about like at least like offering this information is not just like we know that you guys tune in a lot and
Hmm.
it's just personal information that we want you guys to know more about us. It's not that we didn't want to, disclose information because we wanted to keep you guys out. It's because we wanted to keep the Navy out. And
Exactly.
and I'm hoping that will explain a lot of maybe like unpredicted absences, or
Hmm.
maybe something happens because that's the kind of a job that was our real job, and
Yeah.
now we can kind of move into doing this full time. So the expectations moving forward will be that we'll be a lot more hands on and involved in all of this. But
100%.
it without knowing that information, which we really couldn't give you at the time. Hopefully that's kind of the final piece for you guys to answer any kind of like lingering questions, like who are these guys, what do they even do it like on a day-to-day life, because I know
Yeah.
that the people that I follow podcasts with, I'm always curious, like what's their
Same.
actual lives like. um, and yeah, not we didn't want to withhold that from you, so we just wanted to let you know what was going on, because Rick just got out. I was like 6 months, maybe not that long, it was like 3 months ahead of him in getting out.
Yeah.
So we're both kind of like getting out, which is a whole transition on its own, but you'll be seeing a lot
Hmm.
of us now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all the content you saw before I left for deployment, you're going to see a lot of that. Obviously, Kyle has been keeping it up for Only Football, literally live streaming almost every single day, just killing it for you guys. And I've been grateful for him kind of keeping it up without me, and knowing, because we've both been on deployment, we
No,
both
no,
know
no,
the struggles.
no. Ooh, no,
Stop. I don't know how to take compliments. Um, but uh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
no,
But
you froze for a second.
yeah, sorry.
I was like,
Uh,
shit.
I was just
No,
saying, like we've both been on deployment, so he kind of knew my situation going into this off season, like how it was just gonna be rough for me to do live streams, how it was gonna be rough for me to do content, and we all. Oh, did I freeze there? I think we all took it in stride, and we can Kyle continued a lot of the Only Football content, and I'm back, so we are back to what we're doing. But like Kyle said, we want to let you guys know a little bit about ourselves, because I also like to know like podcasts that I listen to about their lives, about stuff they're going through, and it's to me it's like it brings me into the world, and it like helps me like I guess understand them a little bit more, and it also just makes me love the podcast or the show or whatever more. So why not bring it to you guys too, right, from our end? Because we do have a really great following with a lot of you guys that are in the comments right now, and we don't want to like take that for granted and not address certain situations. So it's been great to be back, and it's even better to watch football and live stream it with Kyle and talk about football with Kyle. But a lot of like Kyle said, a lot of what you saw before deployment, it's gonna be back. You're gonna you're gonna be seeing my face after Bears losses, just pissed off. You're gonna be seeing us live stream games. You're gonna be seeing us just doing all sorts of crazy stuff that we love to do about the NFL. And I'm just glad to be
a free man.
be back. Yeah. What'd you say?
A free man.
Oh,
free
that's
man.
funny.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. All of that and more. Next week we'll probably have a 0-0 tie in the Chicago Broncos game. So
Oh God.
just keep that in mind. And as long as as far as like this kind of community,
Hmm.
I like how you guys all you guys, like Bill has been open with me. He's got it right here in his comments.
Yep.
That
I
his
just saw
wife,
that.
had a medical issue going on, and I just, as much as I appreciate being able to tell you guys about our life, like I want you guys to always know that this is a safe place for you guys. If you ever have anything going on in your personal life, feel
Hmm.
free to always send me a private message. Like, one thing that's cool about this podcast is it kind of builds the community.
Yeah.
And We want to take care of each other. You know what I mean? It's not just we're literally called Only Football, but we're not only football.
We're only fans. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, take my feet out now. Like,
check out.
Is that my cue?
Do it. Take the tank off. But yeah, and it's crazy because like one thing that I've noticed too is like when I listen to other podcasts, when I watch other shows, it kind of just like takes me away from reality. It kind of just like zones me in, calms me down, you know. And I feel like if we can do that for somebody, that's great. That's awesome. If you guys could tune in and like have a laugh with us, Ginger, you know, have a drink with us, Bill, have like, you know, laugh at us, Steve and Casey just laughing at us, making jokes with us. Like, it's always great to me to be like, I know that they tune in all the time and they like to hear us talk shit about the NFL, talk shit to each other, talk shit about other teams, and also just be overall entertained and kind of have, like Kyle said, that community. So it really does mean a lot to us. I told Kyle before we started this show that I wanted to take this time to talk about ourselves and really just let you guys know that we appreciate all the love you've given to us over the last year now, because it would be difficult to continue doing this, even though we love football so much, without like that community and you guys in the chat right now, you know, constantly giving us support. So we wanted to take this time to really say we appreciate it, especially, you know, after the deployment and my absence for months.
And the last thing I'll say too is like, as much as, you know, I'm always an open DM if you guys have anything going on. But
Same.
One of my favorite thing is to see you guys in the comment take care of each other. You know
True.
what I mean? Because it's not just our community, it's your community too, you know, and you guys, you know, having each other's back and stuff like that. Like, to me, that is what satisfies me more than like, oh, we crushed our podcast today. It was like, hey man, we got a group of people out there that feel like they belong somewhere. And that to me is like way more rewarding than, you know, the football side of it. I mean, we love the football side of it, don't get me wrong. But
yeah.
You guys in the comments right now, and the way you guys are lifting each other up, that's what our channel wants to be about.
100%. And get ready for more of us. We're going to be bringing you just a lot of, I don't know, just a lot of entertainment, a lot of content, a lot of feet. As Kyle likes to point out. I'm sure Steve is excited. And I want to be able to make, you know, my setup. Obviously Kyle's doing like the cross country stuff, but I want to be able to make my setup a lot cooler too. So I'm going to be experimenting with new setups as well. Going to be moving sometime soon probably as well. I don't know when that is. Who knows? So there might be a transition period. Don't worry, Kyle, I'm not moving out of Washington State. Sorry. But there will be a transition period as well. But, you know, we're going to be bringing you a lot of cool stuff, and we hope that you guys stick by us while we're doing all this stuff and support us like you have been. And again, just appreciate everything you guys have done. Steve, always a pleasure to shoot the shit with you guys. Same, brother, same. So as Kyle is getting asked about playing more music, they think he's the DJ, I guess, still. But again, just wanted to say that. And Kyle, do you got the chives? Do you have the chives?
It's been so long. Chives.
What are the chives?
You got chives. The one thing I wanted to say about the Cowboys loss that might be a little more concerning to just marinate a little bit as you think about this moving forward is we kind of laughed about Trevon Diggs like in the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Getting burnt. Kind of like how we talked about Eli Apple a little bit. Like, oh, he was getting toasted for the Bengals. Well, one game without him, they're not looking too good. So let's just keep an eye on that. The Dallas Cowboys secondary may have actually lost a piece of their defense. That is kind of the difference between Super Bowl and divisional round.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So those are my chives to bring up since we didn't bring it up.
Love it. Well, to Steve, to Bill, KC, Jinja, Diggs, BT Dub, Ben Shelton. Thank you guys for being in the comments. Thank you guys for being in the stream. Thank you guys for talking to us, for supporting us. Appreciate you guys always, as always, and I'm back, and I'm glad I get to say this. I'm glad I get to be in this thing again. Like it's so much fun. But as always, follow us at Star6 Media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook, and at _ Star6 Media on Twitter. Obviously, you guys are on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, so we appreciate you guys again. We're going to be available on all podcast platforms once again. And yeah, get ready for more content, guys. Get ready for more content. This is going to be a great NFL season. Kyle, as always, a pleasure. I love that you're the bar scene in the background. That looks so fucking awesome. So
I know.
I will see you later this week, bro.
All right, brother. Pleasure.
See ya.